And we are live.
Let's go.
Welcome, everyone, to the 64th episode of Coaster Time, hosted by me, Carrick from Coaster Hour. We will be doing a bunch of different segments, and you can check out the itinerary in the description if you want to learn more about what we're doing. But today we are also joined by Mark from CoasterDash, which it's been a long time since you've been on,
Yeah,
and it's awesome to have you back on. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you? Yeah, what, 2021, 2022?
Yes, September 2021, apparently. Pretty
I,
crazy.
I'm like a grown man now compared to how I was.
Yeah, no, it is nuts. One of the crazier things looking back at that stream was I think you said you were like at around over like just around 400 credits and now you're well over 1,000, so that's
Yeah,
another way to look at it
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the experience is definitely there. I'm excited to talk coasters today.
for sure. And I think that's a good segue into our first segment, which is going to be our 20 roller coaster tier list. So these are just random coasters that either one of us or both of us have ridden.
Mhm.
So that'll be how we do it there. A few notes I'll mention for those of you in chat. You can get involved as well, give your thoughts on the coasters, and that'll also influence how the tier list goes. And then for both me and Mark, at the end of the tier list, we can each move two coasters up or down a tier, anyone that we want to choose, or we can move one coaster up or down two tiers.
Okay.
But they have to be ones that basically either one of us hasn't moved yet. So that's going to
All
be
right.
the tier list, and we have it set up here. So that'll get us started. Our first coaster, this is a very unique one. You're probably the only one in here who's ridden it. It's Cobra at Connieland. What
Oh,
tier would you put it in?
very interesting ride. Should I give some reasoning too for all these?
Oh yeah, for sure,
Okay.
definitely.
So Cobra is like it's a weird coaster because force wise, it's a very impressive ride, but it's just like it's so weirdly. I don't know. Track's weird. It's not a comfortable coaster at all. I'm gonna put it in C. I don't think it's a good or bad ride, but I do appreciate it for its uniqueness. I have a soft spot for rides like that. So as much as I may not love Cobra, I think it's a very cool coaster.
How's the scorpion tail on it? I'm out of curiosity.
Oh, it's no, it's absurd. It's one of the most intense things I've ever felt. Again, not necessarily all good. Like it's Gray Out City and then Hang Time City, and then you just get to the end of that spike and you're like, I don't know. It seems like time freezes. It's really freaky, man. It's the only coaster I've actually gotten off where I legitimately did not feel well after. I did feel like really dizzy. So I think that should say something about it. That and maybe Smiler a little bit. So
Nice. Yeah, no, that, I mean, well, not nice in that. I mean, obviously you didn't feel great afterwards, but obviously that's a unique experience. I'm not surprised it's not like the best design or didn't track the best. I mean, it is a PAX Rides coaster.
yeah, so
Yeah, so I can see how that could be
right.
not the best in terms of track work. The next coaster is another one that I have personally not ridden. This was actually not even being built the last time we went to Adventure Dome, but this is El Loco. What's your thoughts on this one?
Been a while for you then. So yeah, El Loco's a fun ride. Again, kind of like Cobra, it's got good and bad attributes in my opinion. I'm not a huge hang time fan. If you watch a lot of my videos, you'll know that. El Loco is very much a hang time centric ride. I will say though, it has some really good airtime moments, like mainly the drop. The drop is crazy. I love the Outer Bank thing too. That's so just funky. But I've done a couple El Locos now, and I will say this one seems to run the weakest of all of them in terms of it's a little bit shaky. You feel all the track jolts. So I don't know. It's a fine ride. It's fun, but I think I'll once again put it in the C tier. Not my
Alrighty, sounds good. Um, yeah, I haven't ridden any of the SNSL Locos, so I'm curious to try one of these. They just look super funky, but I can. I have heard similar stories about the track work compared to what you said,
like
so I could see that.
this one's closer to good than it is bad. It's just for me, like I want to reserve the B and A for really good rides, and then S for me is going to be like anything in my top 10 will probably be able to get into S, but anything else, yeah, that's how I think I'm going to do it.
Okay, sounds good. Seeing that a lot of people here are in chat. Sky Guy, Theme Park Horizons, History and Leisure, hello. And then we'll move on to another coaster. I think we're going to go on a run of several that I've ridden, but this will be the last one for a little bit that only you've done, and this is Fly at Fantasialand. Where would
Oh,
you put this?
now we're stepping things up once again. Not a top 10, So I'm gonna go A. I think it's a fantastic ride. So many different forces. It's the most complete flying coaster I've been on. It has so much theming. It's extremely smooth, innovative as all get out. Like it's an incredible coaster, but it's not thrilling enough, I think, to get to the S tier. But it's still fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard really good reviews about this ride. I mean, specifically, I've heard the positives get highlighted quite a bit,
Yeah,
and it even has some airtime moments, and the interactions look fantastic. So
right.
definitely a very high bucket list coaster for me.
Yeah, like
Um,
it's intense in a very different way, right? Because you have the sustained positives that seem to last forever, but it's not like you're gonna gray out on this.
yeah, it's not like you have like a single element like a pretzel
Yeah,
loop, for example.
sure.
All right, so okay. Next one we have is Giant Dipper at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk,
Yeah.
one of my personal favorite Woodies. If we were going, so interesting in terms of how you're doing S tier, this is not a top 10 coaster for me, but it's actually in my overall top 20. I had some absolutely fantastic rides on it on its 100th anniversary day, got some fireworks rides on it, or one actually, so that was pretty incredible. But even outside of that, the laterals on this coaster, at least for me personally, not when you go to the side during the laterals, like that point of impact, I think it has the strongest laterals in that aspect of any
It's
coaster I've
one of
personally done.
for sure. It's very good.
Yeah. And then there are some really great airtime moments on this coaster. Um, I'll have a bit of a different criteria for S.
Hmm.
I would personally put Giant Dipper in S, but I'd be cool with it in A as well. So either of those work for me. But what about you?
Yeah, I'll go a low A tier. I was actually closer to B tier, but now hearing how much you love it, meeting somewhere in the middle, I'm completely fine putting in A. And the reason being is because I love this ride, and I don't think it gets nearly as much hype as it probably should. It has so many good airtime moments, especially with how weird the shaping is on some of those hills. You kind of pop up out of your seat, flattens out a little bit, and then you go and decline in a steep manner. It's really really interesting. And then of course some of those laterals you mentioned are so sustained. It's a very smooth wooden coaster for its age too. It's fantastic. I love Giant Dipper.
Yeah, no, the park does an amazing job taking care of it,
Right.
along with several of their other classic attractions. So definitely not one to miss if you're in NorCal, if you can get out there because it's a little bit of a trek out there, obviously.
And then
Uh,
question two: are we allowed to change the rankings at any point?
at the end, we will be able to change. Basically, at the end, we will have the option to either move one coaster up or down a tier, or you can move one down like two tiers, basically.
All right.
So
Sounds.
that'll be how we do that. So the next coaster we have is Goliath at Magic Mountain. I'll actually let you go first for this one.
This is another one. I'll put this in C. Like this is another like pretty okay. Like it's a fun ride for what it is, but when you compare it to just about any hyper coaster, it's fine. It's pretty weak. It has some good moments. Like the speed is great. I'm a big speed fan, so it really that makes up for a lot of the crap with this coaster. It has a good camelback. And the helix. Everyone talks about how intense it is. It is crazy. Everything else, I think, is just fine. But yeah, I think it's a fun ride. Probably gets a little too much hate. I'll put yes. I think C is a fair spot for it.
I'm in complete agreement. I think the sense of speed, specifically in the first half, as you mentioned, is quite good.
Yeah,
The second half is very positive heavy, so definitely excels in that aspect. And I think one of the underrated moments of the ride that I've come to appreciate, especially if you're in the front row, when you're coming off the mid-course brake run, you do get some pretty insane lateral hang time.
it is crazy.
Um, so I think that's a pretty cool moment that you don't really get on other coasters. So
If for that reason, and then also the speed. If you're in the front row, Goliath is probably a B tier ride, but in any other row, it's a C tier ride. And so I think that averages out to a C tier.
that's fair. Yeah, no, front row just for that reason, for both the speed and then the that moment. I'd say that's definitely the best seat on the ride as well. And then Sky Guy mentions Titan, obviously not on here, but I have a significant preference to Titan simply because that upward helix, I think, is the best element between both rides.
Yeah,
But
it's an easy A. Sorry, not an A. An easy B tier for me. It's definitely better than Goliath in just about every way. I'm not like, aside from the Helix though, I'm not even exactly sure like what it does better, but it just feels like it rides better. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Only got the one ride on it when I went a few years ago, but it just seemed to be running better overall.
Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty, next we have Great White, which I assume you've ridden.
I have
Uh,
done.
okay,
Ooh, this is
so
interesting.
what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, like I said, I haven't been on this in a while, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do because they're refurbishing some of this and they're adding new trains. I think it's going to be a substantially better ride. Back when I did it though, I actually thought it was just fine. It almost sounds like I'm being negative to start off the list, but Great White, I wasn't that impressed by, and it's weird because I love CCI. Like CCIs are almost always like elite woodies for me, but this one was just kind of fine. I thought it didn't really have any good airtime. It had some good laterals, but it wasn't enough to really. I don't know. It was decent. I'm gonna put it in C once again.
And our C tier is growing quite rapidly, though
It,
it would kind of make sense if it's the largest tier because it's supposed to be the average, so
right.
that makes sense. Haven't ridden this one. I think the location's cool though. I mean, it's a CCI Woody, which I agree with you in terms of the CCIs. Most of the ones I've done, I've liked quite a bit. I think
Yeah.
the only one that's kind of not been super great is Stampede at Port Aventura, and well, the family Woody there too. Um, but the other ones I've ridden have been fantastic. So curious to see how this one would be when I ride it. Next, we have Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure. So I'll just mention straight off the bat, I think I'm lower on this ride than a lot of other people. I would actually put this in B tier, a high
Mhm.
B tier, granted. Now, I would be willing to push this to an A simply because I didn't get a night ride on this, and I know for sure that would elevate it to A tier because it's like kind of like in the cusp of high B, low A for me personally. And I think it's still very well themed. It's a very immersive experience that way. I guess I don't know. For some reason, I was expecting the some of the forces to be more than what they actually were. Even though yes, it's a family coaster. I think I was a bit disappointed in that way, but it's still a really great ride. But
Yeah.
so can't go wrong with it.
Yeah. Hagrid. I'm actually closer to an S tier for this one. It's about on par with Fly in my rankings. But yeah, I'll be in the middle and go A. I think that's completely reasonable.
All right. Someone else had like a high B, so yeah, we'll put it in A
Yeah.
then. All right. Next, we got another ride in the same resort, Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. I'll let you go first for this one.
Yeah, this is a fun ride. I mean, I only got a few rides, and I'm glad I got to do it at all. Of course, now we know it's closing permanently. Um, this is one that I definitely enjoy. Like, it's flawed for sure. Like with all the mid course break runs, its pacing is a little skewed, but it's actually a pretty intense ride, and I actually kind of like the way it runs. I think the onboard audio is really unique. The non-inverting loop is great. I'm gonna put this one in B tier, but as much as I do really like it, yeah, I'm not too upset about it being removed because I think whatever replaces it will be like an A or an S.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense of just your last thing you mentioned, how I have a lot of faith in the replacement.
Yeah.
But I am actually a pretty big fan of this ride. I'd actually be an A tier person in terms of Rip Ride Rocket. I think it's got some really good forces. I mean, the airtime is incredible. A lot of people complain about the brake runs, but I actually think the brake runs add a lot to the coaster because I don't know how those elements would be shaped if they weren't there. And the airtime you get going both into them and out of them is insane. And then you have this one helix, I think, toward like the back leg of like the first half. That's also really intense. So it provides a lot of forces. Obviously, the onboard audio is a great aspect to this coaster. I think that also adds a lot. Had some great night rides back in 2023 as well. So I'd actually put this in A tier, but um, I'm a big fan of it. But I
Yeah,
think we don't have any in B, so I'm actually okay with putting it in B tier for now.
yeah, that's reasonable. I struggle to want to put it on the same tier as like Fly and Hagrid, but I completely respect it. I'm glad you're showing it some love. I think it's a coaster that doesn't get nearly enough love. I will say about the mid courses, I think your take is 100% reasonable. Like I do agree that the airtime off the mid course is fantastic, and going up in the front row, that's also fantastic. But I could also attribute that to bad design. Uh, so like if they shape the elements differently without a mid-course every 10 seconds, then that would just be a better design. Again, I think the replacement will be the better ride. So
Yeah, I don't disagree necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of potential for that. So,
yeah,
and I mean, this ride it's not exactly the most popular. It's at least very polarizing. So I totally get why it's getting removed. Next, we have another ride that people would consider to be janky. This is Hurricane at Fun Spot Kissimmee. I'm trying to think how we did it. I guess I'll go first for this one. Um, it was interesting. I actually was very intrigued by this ride because I've loved the E&F Miler kiddie coasters I've ridden.
yeah,
It does bring some pretty strong airtime, but wow, is it a train wreck in terms of like just how it tracks? I just was it is a very jarring ride. I do enjoy some aspects of it, but especially compared to what we have so far, I'd probably be leaning D tier honestly for this ride.
agree.
What didn't end up being the biggest fan of it overall. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, same. Like I think we're exactly on the same page. I'm a fan of Miler. Like I think a lot of the large scale Milers are actually like incredibly underrated. But of them, this is probably the weakest one I've done. Like you said, it has good airtime. That's not the problem. The problem is everything is janky on this ride. And I'm not talking like janky like Rip Red Rock. I'm talking like this is one of the jankiest rides I've ever been on. Some of the turns, like the low to the ground turns, the transitions going in and out of them are like really uncomfortable. And I just think about like on a scale of all roller coasters I've ridden, I would agree. I think D tier is completely fair.
Yeah. No, some of the low to the ground transitions. I think specifically there's one moment kind of toward the end where it like just really goes nuts in terms of shuffling around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's I kind of wish I got another ride on this because I think I might actually like it a little more if I did, because I only got the one ride on it. But for now, it will be D tier.
Yeah, this might end up being like the lowest ranked coaster on our list, honestly, because I don't really like truly dislike many coasters. I don't think there's anything on here that's gonna get an F, but we'll see.
Yeah, just looking at it, I don't think so. The next coaster we have, I have not personally ridden this one, but it's going to be Hydra the Revenge at Dorney Park.
Interesting. Um, for a floorless coaster, it's obviously a very unique ride. I've had I've had some good rides on Hydra, and I've had some not so good rides on Hydra. It's kind of a temperamental ride for me, at least. And those bad rides, I mean, that's closer to a D, but those good rides are closer to a B. So like, yeah, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and put it in B. I don't think C is reasonable because I think a good ride on Hydra is absolutely better than anything in that C column. And I do really like the layout. Like I'm a guy that I really appreciate some uniqueness, and Hydra is definitely unique for a floorless. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was the first coaster to introduce a JoJo roll, which we're
yeah,
starting to see on a few more rides now, which is cool to see.
the JoJo's fantastic. It's so good.
And as you mentioned, it's a very unique layout, so that definitely gives it some additional points there. So um, definitely an interesting B&M coaster for sure. And then the next coaster we have is Invader at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Also have not ridden this one. What's your thoughts on Invader?
Yeah, this is another one that I actually think is quite underrated. Like, it gets a lot of trash. I think just because it's so tame, and everyone wanted, Busch Gardens Williamsburg to invest in a big scale GCI, and that's not what you got with Invader. Having said that, I actually think it packs a bigger punch than some of the bigger GCIs I've been on, to be honest, especially the older ones. It's a short layout, but it actually has some great airtime. I love that there's no seatbelt, so you kind of just go flopping around in your seat. And it runs really well. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic ride. I'm going to go B tier. I think it's better than anything in that C column.
All right. I've heard very mixed thoughts on Invader. Some people have it as like the low, like literally their lowest ranked GCI, and other people are like, actually, it's pretty good. There's, as you mentioned, would take it over a lot of the older GCIs. And it's good to hear some praise for this ride because it feels like more often than not, it's usually not given too much praise. But I appreciate hearing that.
I think this is it's very based on expectation, what you're expecting going into the ride. I think that's where a lot of people are going to end up with this one.
Nice. Alrighty. So the next coaster we have is Joker at Discovery Kingdom. Speaking of one that is kind of an interesting discussion in the community.
Yeah.
Um, This for me, I think I'm gonna put it in A tier. Um, there's a lot of attributes to Joker I really enjoy. I think the first drop, being that twisted drop, I think that is an absolutely fantastic first drop. Really enjoy that. One of my favorite RMC first drops personally, just because of that. It's got some really nice inversions, as well as my favorite being the stall. And the airtime it does have, I think, is quite good. Maybe not as strong as some of the other RMCs, and there are some more lull moments, I would say, in the layout. There's some turns that don't really do much, but I still have this over a few other RMCs I've ridden, and I think it's a very good ride, so I'd go A tier for Joker.
This to me is kind of like what Balder is to prefabs, is what this is to RMCs. Because like yeah, it has some meandery bits where it's not really doing much, but those peaks are really good. Like I love Joker. I've always thought it was probably the first or second most underrated RMC I've been on. Yes, the layout has lulls, like you said. I'm not denying that, and it is one of the weaker RMCs too. I'm not disagreeing with the consensus there, but I don't think it is the weakest. I think it has some great airtime. Like you said, the inversions are great. Color scheme is awesome. It's a pretty unique RMC too. So yeah, this one I'm gonna go up to A tier.
Yeah, I think the point of it being a unique RMC um, is definitely something that I also have come to appreciate. Now, having ridden more RMCs, rides like Joker, and actually, even though it's not on here, Twisted Colossus as well, I've actually come to appreciate more and more.
Yeah.
Just because I think their layouts are quite unique in comparison to some of the other ones. So,
Sure.
uh, yeah, good to see some Joker praise. Next, we have Puritan at Jer Summerland. Have not ridden this. You can go on ahead for this one.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another A tier for me. It's a incredible little ride. Like for how small it is, this just packs a punch. It has some really crazy airtime. The one thing about this I will say, and I don't hear anyone talking about this, but the last few airtime hills are pretty weak, so it doesn't end with a bang, and that's why I actually prefer the Mach Megalite at Negoland. I didn't initially when I got off because it was running kind of slow, and then as it warmed up, I was like, okay, this kind of fixes my problem with Puritan in that the finale's pretty weak. Having said that, it's not enough to knock it beneath A because I think the rest of the layout is absolutely phenomenal.
That's interesting because I don't think I've heard that too much with Puritan. I think I've heard that complaint for Kawasemi, although that one I think the lift hill is like a lot slower or something, so that's just it runs worse.
I know that one runs slower. I'm not exactly sure though.
But but I mean, still looks obviously like a high quality ride as you described. So
Sure.
there we go. Next one we have is Red Force.
Mm.
So this is personally for me an interesting one. It's kind of crazy to think about that this is the world's tallest
It is.
operating
Oh,
coaster. Um, oh wait, sorry, what did you say?
no, it's just crazy. Like I can't believe we're in a day and age where this is the tallest coaster.
Yeah, I this is not the way I wanted to be able to say I've run the world's tallest coaster. It won't last very long, but I mean, at least for now, basically, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and unfortunately, I only got one ride on this, and it was not a front row ride. I really wanted to get a front row ride, but that did not end up working out. And I ended up being disappointed by the launch itself. Now, I think the ride is kind of made up for with how it traverses the top hat and the drop kind of following that. I think is really excellent. Definitely better than, say, like a dragster when it comes to that. But I think otherwise it was still disappointed. I'd put this in B tier, but I'd be okay with A just because I think a front row ride would land it there. But that's where I land on Red Force. What about you?
Yeah, one ride and not in the front. That's rough. Because I also remember my first ride. They didn't let me choose my row at all, and I
Yeah.
park and resort is red. I think it's awful, but we got lucky because they put us in like row two, and then we asked like the people in the actual front row if they would mind switching, and they were more than happy because they saw our cameras. So they were like, okay, go ahead. So I'm incredibly grateful to that family because my first ride was in the front, and therefore this ride blew me away. But I'm also keeping in mind I'm a bigger fan of speed than a lot of people in this community. So Dragster and Ka were like top 15, maybe top 10 for me. So this also ranks quite high, not as high, but definitely an A tier ride for me. Even outside the front though, I thought it was pretty great. Yeah, maybe it's because you only got one ride, but I think it's awesome. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, if I got more than one ride and a ride in the front row, I know this would be higher because I actually also have Dragster really high in my rankings. I have it as a personal top 15 coaster. And my first ride there was in the front row, and I rode in the other rows. It was still good, but it definitely wasn't the same getting that experience. So, I mean, I think Red Forest, I mean, it's a coaster I expect at some point I'll get back to, and I will do my absolute best to try to get this in the front. But yeah, it was unfortunate that I wasn't able to work out. Still a very good ride otherwise. Next, we have Riddler Mindbender
Ooh.
at Over Georgia. You can go first for this one.
Oh, this one's a little tricky because so I never got to do the original Mindbender. I
Me
actually
either.
did media day for this Mindbender, and I was pretty disappointed. I couldn't act that disappointed because I was invited to a media day for it, so I was like kind of glazing it a little bit. But like honestly, it's not that great. I think the B and M train, they're B and M trains, right?
I don't entirely recall. I think maybe.
The whoever did them, whatever company did those trains, I think that really sapped a lot of the airtime that this ride used to give because now it has no airtime. The loops are good, but not amazing. I'm also just not as big of a fan of Schwarzkopf. So you combine both of those things and you get like just kind of an okay ride, but okay in this translates to a C tier, so I'll put it in C tier. I don't think like the Fun Spot Kissimmee ENF is like considerably worse than this. So
That's a good point. I would agree with most of what you said. And then Coaster Evan, who wrote it before and after, says before the remodel was an A tier and it's C tier after, which is kind of a tragedy.
yeah, I
Es- especially having ridden Shockwave after this, don't know how they would have compared prior. Uh, that was kind of a ride that kind of told me just how much better Riddler Mindbender would have been in its original form. But as is, it's an okay looping coaster. It does have some nice terrain usage, so I'll give it that. But it's definitely a C tier for me as well. So we'll plug it in there. Next, we have Silver Bullet at Knott's Berry Farm. So I'm actually, I think, higher on this than some other people. I would go and actually say that this is a B tier coaster for me. Now, I've had some really good rides on this, some night rides where it's absolutely hauling. There are definitely some weaknesses to it. Obviously, the first drop is just a tragedy. I mean, it's just a speed ramp, basically. It doesn't really do much there. But I think the way the ride ends off is really strong. You have the two corkscrews and then that helix going over the water. I think it's a pretty memorable ending. There's also a zero G roll, and then you have the outer bank at the beginning that is kind of floaty as well, which definitely gives the ride some character. So, personally, for me, this is the B tier coaster. But Mark, what do you think about Silver Bullet?
so okay. This is my least favorite B&M invert by like a decent bit, but this is like one of the best models ever. So even first B&M invert is like a pretty decent ride. I don't think I like it as much as you do, but I'm willing to also put it in B only because one, B is not as filled up, but also two, I can appreciate like this ride's strengths, and I think when you're looking at it just for what it is, it actually is a pretty fun ride. You mentioned the drop, not great. But some of those inversions are fun. It's not as whippy of a B&M invert. That's the main thing about it. I'm not a fan of. But you still have some great positives on the loop and the last helix. And I do like the end sequence before the last helix in the two corkscrews and that little airtime thing. I think that's kind of a cool sequence. But I'm not a huge fan of the Cobra roll or zero G roll. I think they're all kind of just floaty, not whippy like other B&M inverts. So it's just a fine B&M invert, but as a roller coaster, I think B is completely reasonable because I think I would have it around the same tier as Hydra. So
All right. Then Coaster Evan also has it in B tier. Also got some great rides on it, so that's good to hear. Next coaster we have is Storm Runner at Hershey Park. Where do you have this one?
oh, that's another amazing ride. A tier, yeah, it's incredible. The A tier is getting stacked though, so I'm definitely moving some stuff at the end here. But Storm Runner's awesome. Like that launch, it's one of the last hydraulics left. The top head is crazy. You hit your max speed at the bottom of the drop, which is so cool. And some of those inversions in the second half, oh my, so whippy. I love this ride. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I'd be in agreement in A tier. Uh, I only, unfortunately, I rode this one time. It was in the front row though, so at least there was that. I would have liked to actually get a back row ride though, just because like the drop off top hat I imagine would have been great. Um, and it was in 2017, but I mean this ride really blew me away. Launch is fantastic. You obviously have the top hat, which gives some great airtime. And then the flying snake dive sequence, just popping up into it, then going through the roll and going down. It's just pure insanity. So many forces all at once. And definitely an element as well. I wish I could have experienced more than once because that was just like a very shocking element at first. But it was still very memorable. So I definitely agree that it's an A tier coaster.
Awesome.
Next, we have Superman El Último Escape at Six
Mm.
Flags Mexico. For me personally, this is almost a top 10 coaster for me. It's, I believe, my 12 currently. So I would have this in S tier. I think it has, I mean, it has a very unique beginning, obviously, with that pre-lift section, which is very cool. Terrain usage is also quite good. It has a really strong blend of airtime and positive Gs, which is very welcome to see on a hyper coaster. And it just has a lot of character to it as well. Some great views of Mexico City as well as you're going up the lift. That also can't be underrated. So uh, excellent ride overall. I'd personally have it an S. Mark?
Yeah, and I think S is completely reasonable for what you're looking for. For my criteria, it's probably an A tier ride, and the reason I say that is because it doesn't have a great start, and I just think any S tier coaster is for me probably needs to be like a perfect ride because an A tier is like damn close, and then an S is a perfect ride. That's how I'm looking at this. And it does have like a pretty weak drop and a pretty weak first hill. Everything else about it is amazing. I completely agree. It has some excellent strength. It's probably one of the better hyper coasters out there. Probably one of the best coasters ever for laterals. Maybe my best steel coaster credit for laterals. Actually, it's really crazy, and I do love how the mid course didn't trim me at all. So I got some pretty gnarly airtime in the second half. So yeah, it's fantastic. I'm gonna go A tier personally.
All right, I'm down.
Yeah, I think we're
But
gonna end up moving some of those in A tier though.
yeah,
Now it's getting loaded. And now looking at what we have in A tier, there are like a few that do stand out as being easily better than the rest.
that's fair. Okay. Well, I think we have two coasters that I'm guessing are probably not going to be an A tier coming up here. Next one we have is Valraven. I'll let you go first for this one.
Oh, this one's tough. I don't think it's as bad as people say, but I also can acknowledge that for a B&M dive, it is like probably the weakest one I've done. Like it doesn't really do much. Well, Crake is pretty bad. But Valraven is pretty weak. Like it's a generic layout. That's the thing. The second half is good. I actually like the second half more than people say, and I think the drops are fun as much as the vests are a little bit annoying. This one's tough. It's like teetering between C and B. Have you been on this?
I have, and I'm one of those people that you talk about that like talk way too much bad on it. I would be one of those people.
So I'll let you cancel out the tie between B and C because I'm really not sure where I would go.
Okay. I mean, I'll be honest, I only got one ride on it. It was really bad. Now, like the ride I got on it is definitely worse than what the coaster actually is because, and I haven't had this issue on any other B&M coaster with the vest. It only happened on this one, but for some reason the ride up really stapled me in there. Like I have no idea why. It was like actually insane. Like pretty much like full force tried to get that thing down on me, and my ride was miserable. So based on my own experience, I'd even toy with D tier, but I think C tier is, you know, a lot more
Yeah,
realistic.
let's throw it in C. I think that's totally fine.
Because I do agree, the final inversion, I forget what it's called. I think that actually might be my favorite element on the ride, honestly. That or the first drop. Because that last inversion is really good. Has some really nice hang time on it.
Yep.
It has some solid moments, but as you said, very generic layout. I prefer, the only other dive I've done is Emperor, and I certainly prefer that over Valraven.
For sure. Yeah.
The next one we have is Wicked. I've not personally ridden this one. So, Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
This is a cool one. This one is also underrated. Starting to see a trend. Um, the thing about Wicked that's a little weird though is it's got two halves, and they're very different quality wise. First half, excellent, probably an A tier first half. Second half, probably a D or F actually. Oh, it's again it's teetering on the B and C, but I'll actually give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I do think Wicked is a fun ride, and that launch is one of my favorites. It's so different from anything I've ever done.
Yeah, that definitely is probably the moment I'm looking forward to the most, just because there is not really much else like it. I guess you do have like the one coaster, Storm Coaster now that has vertical launch, but
Yeah.
this looks better when it comes to that specifically. Um, so that's fair. But now is the time where we can either move two coasters up or down one tier, or you can move one coaster down or
Yeah.
up two tiers. I'll let you, since you're the guest, I'll let you go first. Which one do you want to move and where?
Yeah, so I got mine definitely in the back of my mind, like which I want to move up, and the first is definitely gonna be Fly because I think Fly stands out above all the rest. So we're gonna move
All
that.
right, to S.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we'll alternate so that way we can go about it that way. Okay, so you did put a coaster in S tier. I was going to do that, but since you did that, that works.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm mostly fine, honestly, with where a lot of this is kind of the interesting thing because, like, yeah, there's not honestly a whole lot that I would change. Although, honestly, for me personally, I am gonna put Superman in S. Um, I just one of my favorite coasters I've ever done, so I'm gonna put it in S tier.
And then I would also like to move Hagrid up to S. I know you don't
No,
agree.
that's fine. That's fine. We can do that.
I think
So,
it's fair because I also wouldn't have Superman in S. So I'm down to meet in the middle there.
alrighty. And then, well, we did shrink the A tier quite a bit,
Yeah,
so I I I just it's obviously it's going away. It's probably I mean I don't do tier lists that often, but it probably won't appear in another tier list. Although I guess theoretically it could. But just for tribute, I'm gonna put Rip Ride Rocket in A tier, and I think we'll finish out the tier list that way. So we mostly got rid of the A tiers in terms of it being super huge, but I added to it at the end. But I think we
looks
came out with a pretty good tier list.
pretty good.
And Coaster Evan wasn't here earlier, but he would also put Hagrid's in S. So there you go.
Oh, awesome.
Um, but
Look at the comments, bro. Everyone's pissed.
yeah, I mean, hey, it's gonna happen. It's move Hurricane to F.
Yeah,
Nah, I would not. Like I'd reserve F for like really garbage rides, and Hurricane has some good qualities to
kind of
it,
like
even
how
if
there's
it's flawed.
kind of how like I'd only put like 10 coasters in the S for me. I'd probably also only do like 10 in the F, you know? Because like to me that's like the worst of the worst. Most of my coasters are gonna end up in probably A, B, and C, and maybe a few in D.
That's fair. I'm there's like there's a few like actual coasters, not counting like kiddie coasters and whatnot, that I would put in F. I probably have a decent chunk in like every other tier though. So, but yeah, that'll do it for our tier list. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll move on to our next segment, which is going to be our blind North American Park ranking challenge or
Ooh,
blind ranking North American Park challenge. So
love these.
yeah, so how this is gonna work, for those who have not seen this, basically me and Mark are going to rank 10 random North American parks out of a list of 100. I actually have that list if you want to check it out on spreadsheet, Mark, of all the parks I have included. We have to blind rank them like 1 through 10. We'll each have 10 parks, and then you in the chat will be able to vote on the winner at the very end. So that's pretty much going to be how that's going to go.
Cool.
I just need to get a few things set up here so we are ready to go when it comes to that. Alrighty. And all right, I think just about got it here. So that's going to be our next segment. It should be pretty interesting, just in terms of haven't done this in a little bit here. So here we have this massive wheel. I'll actually slightly zoom out. Yeah, 100 parks. So here we go. I'll go first here, since I'm the host, just so people can get a feel for what exactly this is going to look like. And our first park is going to be Islands of Adventure, it appears. All right, I'm gonna put that. I'm not messing around. I'm gonna put that at 1.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm not blaming you at all.
So, and actually, I just realized I think I set this up slightly off. So actually, let me. I'll remove that, and then I'm actually gonna reset this up because the way I shared it, because it's not doing the switching the tabs. So I'll just change that real quick. Okay, there we go. I think that fixed it. Okay. All right, I'll spin yours. This is gonna be your first pick. So we'll see what you end up getting for the first one. Looks like it's Waldemir.
Ooh, okay. Waldemir's good. Oh, but it's a small park. Not much there to do. This is tough. I don't have any point of reference. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it into the 7.
Okay.
Hopefully that's not too low, because I actually think it's a very solid park. But I also kind of like with coasters. I like basically every park I've been to. There's only a select few that I'm really not a fan of.
All right. Okay. I respect it. And it's always interesting because it's just luck of the draw, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you get an absolutely loaded lineup, and other times you don't. And I've done this a few times before.
Right. I hope it wasn't the wrong call, because maybe 6 was the way to go for that, but who knows?
All right. So next I got LeBron. Now,
Islands and then Laurent. That's awesome.
just because we have 100 parks, we're gonna have some small ones, some really little places. I'm not gonna put this like absolute bottom of the barrel because I think that's unfair. I think there are some good qualities with Laurent. I mean, I haven't been, but obviously it has Goliath over there, along with Vampire, which I've heard is one of the better Batman clones. Nice setting, large ride lineup overall. I'll put this at 7, so not very high, but I think it's a little more established than some of the parks we'll be getting. So, but yeah, that's basically this wheel, how quickly it can drop. So there you go. Alrighty. And the next one is going to be Six Flags Darien Lake.
Okay. Okay. Darien Lake. I'll throw it in the 6. I almost think Waldemir is the better park, but at the stage I'm at right now, which is literally just like 2 parks in, I don't think it would be a good call to put that in the 8. And to be fair, I think it's a more established property than Waldemir. Like, the ride lineup is better. Yeah, I think that's a fair spot. I think the setting's really nice. Like, I think it's a solid park. It's not my favorite, but it's decent.
That's fair. I think that's probably a good route to go. I would have probably done about similar. If the parks were similar in ranking, I don't think I could risk putting a park like Darien Lake at 8.
As I got that, I thought to myself, I probably should have just put Waldemir a spot higher, honestly.
Well,
I did a lot of tiny little parks.
We'll see how it goes. You never know. Might have been a good call.
Good point.
I think I just got Mount Olympus.
Oh, that's beautiful. Put that in the S. Top 2.
Oh, boy, this is a very interesting one. Have never been here. You have been here. It has a great wooden coaster lineup, but boy, oh boy, the atmosphere of this park, and just kind of the vibes of it, not the best from what I hear.
It's a crapshoot of a park that's so much fun.
I think I'll put it at 6.
Yeah, that's completely fine. I probably would have done about the same. I definitely think it's a better park than Laurent, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's acceptable.
Yeah, especially because the water park is so great.
That's true. I didn't even think of that, but that's a good point. Alrighty, the next park. What's it gonna be? Nickelodeon Universe, the New
Ooh.
Jersey location. Wow, we're getting an interesting run of parks as of late.
No, I mean this is fine. I'm gonna throw this in the 8. I can't realistically put it at 5. I think that's too high, but it's not a bad park. Like honestly, I think this one gets a little too much hate. Like it does kind of look like the inside of a Costco, but their ride lineup is actually really good when everything's open. And I've been so lucky because the 2 times I've been in this park, all 5 coasters were running. I think that's like extremely rare. One time, so to get it twice like that is crazy. But having said that, I think Waldemere objectively is a better park. I probably would have ranked Nick Universe maybe a little bit higher, judging by my experiences at that park, and it is more of a full day destination in my opinion. But still, like I think this list looks good so far.
All right, fair enough. Um, yeah, Nickelodeon Universe, New Jersey, another park I haven't been to. Happy that you've had a good experience there. That's obviously
Yeah,
ideal.
a lot of people haven't. A lot of people haven't.
All right, all right. Fun spot Atlanta. Okay,
Ooh,
they got Air Force One,
they
so
do.
so you have that. Besides that, not really much. This park gets kind of nuts that I haven't been there because I have family in Atlanta, but the last time I was in Atlanta was because of the snowstorms that happened a few months ago. It was a layover flight, and we got delayed like 2 days basically, so I had to chill out there with my family. Uh, because there was snow, obviously Air Force One wasn't running, so could not get it. Um, uh,
Fun Spot Atlanta is a park that exists.
I, I think I gotta put it at 8. I mean, it it just has Air Force One basically.
If you haven't been, I think that's a completely fair spot, but it probably would have been like 10 for me. Even though they have Air Force, which is one of the best rides in the world, the park itself is like disgustingly awful. Like it just does not look good. Both of the other fun spots easily are better, easily.
Dang, that's saying. I mean, I like Orlando. Kissimmee, I don't love the vibes,
Okay.
um, but if Atlanta is less, then yikes. And you got Universal Studios
Ooh,
Florida.
Universal Florida. This is an underrated park. Um. Ooh. Okay. Do I want to put this in 4 or 3? Because that's where I'm looking right now. I think it's a good park. Like the theming is excellent. Let me put it into 3 because I kind of don't want to get dangerously close to missing the mark on my thing.
Honestly, I would have been between I think 3 or 4. I probably would have went 3 because I do enjoy studios quite a bit. Um,
Yeah, I think it's excellent. Like they don't have a standout coaster or ride, but it seems like they're gonna get it soon. But
mhm.
ride, like it's fantastic. The ride lineup is super deep. They have some great entertainment. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, Born Stuntacular is fantastic
Oh,
in
it's
my
so
opinion.
so good.
So, do not miss out on that if you're there. It is well worth doing. And now we get Six Flags Great Escape. Okay.
Okay.
Um. Ooh. Am I kind of. I feel like I've pigeonholed myself that I kind of have to put it at 5 because, I mean, yeah, I think I'm gonna do it. Um.
Just because you have a lot of not so great parks down at the bottom, that doesn't necessarily mean your list is bad so far because you're kind of just making the best of your circumstances. Like I don't think this looks bad. I would say Great Escape is better than those 3.
Yeah, I mean, you have Comet, Bobcat, so that's, solid 1-2 punch. I know that they still have some, like, theming left over, I think, from, like, the storybook or Storyland days, so that gives it some extra charm. And it
And my
seems to have a nice location,
yeah, my
so
favorite ride in that park is Adirondack Outlaw. I thought that was outstanding. It's one of the best flat rides I've been on.
yeah, I've heard definitely some praise for that one, so that's a good call as well. Alrighty. And the wheel gives you Cedar Point.
Woo! Oh my gosh. Okay. I do like parks more than Cedar Point, but like you did with Islands, I just don't want to risk anything, so I'm putting that at one. There's no question for me.
I would have done the same because I think, especially because we're trying to win a vote and whatnot amongst enthusiasts. I think Cedar Point, you could make an argument for being number one in any situation.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what I thought about Islands, honestly. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna put it at one. So I think that's a really good choice.
And
Funny
then
because
if I
you
got
almost. Oh wait, sorry, you go.
even if I got one of the few parks that was better than Cedar Point and I had that at two, I wouldn't like be offended by that.
That's fair. Um, it's funny because I saw the wheel was like it almost landed on castles and coasters. So
That would have been a very different scenario.
yeah, that's for sure. Alrighty. Next park we're getting is. Oh wow, okay, Dollywood.
Ooh, oh my gosh. Don't waste that.
Yeah, I'm putting that at two.
Yeah,
Uh,
your top two is perfect right now.
yeah, absolutely fantastic park. Um, just love the overall charm of it. Obviously, its wooded setting is fantastic. Amazing food. You got lightning rod and a very good selection of roller coasters and attractions overall. Also stayed at the resort as well.
Nice.
The one before Heart Song, which was great as well. So absolutely fantastic park. Definitely can't go wrong with that. Alrighty, Mark. We'll see what you get next. You got Ride Playland.
It's a little laggy for me, so I don't know if the viewers. Yeah, okay, there we go. Right Playland. Um, oh man, so I haven't been here in years, but it's just like a fine little family park. It's a lot of it's pretty old and outdated. I bet there could be a park worse than this. Like this isn't a bad park. I'll put it at nine. I'll put it at nine because if there's something worse than this, then I want to reserve that ten.
That's always my logic. It's like if unless I get something that's either like really bad or it's like okay, they just really don't have much from a coaster standpoint, I'm gonna keep 10 open. So I like
Yeah.
that logic.
Even if I get something that's like a little bit weaker than or a little bit better than Right Playland, and I put it at 10, it's like fine, whatever.
Yeah. So I think that's a good call. Next park for me. So far, so good. We'll see if that changes. Are we gonna get the other? Yes, we are. All right, Universal Studios Hollywood.
Oh, nice.
This is really interesting because I do really like this. I think you've talked at length about how it's underrated, and I definitely view it in that way as well. Um,
Yeah, I think it's excellent.
yeah, not obviously the largest quantity of rides and attractions, but the quality is, I think, top notch for what they have. Um,
And they're about to get a really amazing standout ride, so I
yeah,
that just puts the cherry on top for this park. And for me, like I know where I would put this.
it's just tricky because you know what? I am gonna go with my gut because the last time I did this, I kind of had a situation where it was like I didn't, and I paid the price for it. So I'm gonna put Studios Hollywood at three. I do really enjoy this park, and I think that's what I'm gonna go with. So, alrighty. So next we'll go on to your next park. So far our lists or our rankings are kind of coming along, and you get Magic Springs.
Ooh, I haven't been here. This is probably the only park I'm going to get that I haven't been to. Oh, I haven't heard great things, and I sure as hell don't want to put it at the five. So I'm going to put it at 10. Because no, I actually think 10 is reasonable. Because I think you can go here, and this could be like worse than all of those parks so far. So I think this is fine. I mean, the ride lineup is better than some of these, but yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right. Yeah, I think I've heard of definitely people not having not so great visits, so I think 10 is definitely fair. You're just kind of hoping that you get some
Yeah, well,
nice.
To be fair, like the reason I haven't been to this park yet is because I'm always hesitant because I think not all the coasters are going to be running. And same
Yep.
with Elitch Garden. So I think either of those two would, necessitate a low spot.
Yeah. I mean, I was right next to Wild Waves once, and I didn't go just because I was like, don't know
Yeah,
if all this stuff's gonna be open.
the
So
park needs to get it together, man.
yeah, not ideal. Alrighty, next park for me. Well, I really hope my choices up to this point don't backfire, and I think I'm okay because I got Sesame Place Philadelphia.
Ooh, okay, yeah, you're looking good. Your list is looking good.
Do I put it at 9 or 10?
Yeah, that's tough. They do have a great ride there.
That is true,
I would
but
because I don't think it's a bad park. It's just not for me.
I'm just trying to think if there's realistically like
How many?
I think I personally am gonna put it at 10.
Fair.
I have not been here, and obviously yes, they have a nice standout coaster, and the park looks nice otherwise, for what it is. Obviously very family oriented, but just I can't have it that high.
Mine is because I think I do like that park more than Fun Spot Atlanta.
That's fair. I mean, the way you described it,
No, not good at all. It's ugly. Really ugly.
All right, the next park you got is Oaks Amusement Park.
Ooh, okay. A small little park. So I'm trapped.
Yeah.
I'm freaking trapped. I probably would have been better off putting Magic Springs at 5, honestly.
Dang. Okay.
Because Oaks is like a cute little park, but it is so small, and they do not have much going for them. Like there's not much to do. Every time I've ever gone to Oaks, which is I think like 3 or 4 times actually, because my brother used to live in Portland, I would just go for like 2 hours at the most. I mean, I'll put it at 5. Like, what else can I do, right? So
Yeah. Not definitely did not land the right way for you. I'll say that much. I enjoyed Oaks on my one visit for what it was. I did do the skating rink just because it's like the oldest in America, so like I mean
yeah,
that was neat. Um, but yeah, obviously not a place that you're gonna spend a ton of time at. So
I better hope I get good parks to wrap things up. Kind of screwed otherwise.
yeah, that's for sure. And oh, please don't be Silver Dollar City. Okay, thank goodness. SeaWorld San Diego. I was like so scared. I'm like, no, that would be really bad to have that under Studios Hollywood. I think that's definitely a number 4 for me. Um, maybe well, no, I don't think it's that risky because I think SeaWorld San Diego's like obviously they don't have like a standout coaster or ride, but it's a nice park. It looks nice. They have some nice animal exhibits. They have a solid selection of coasters. And I think for what it is, it's very enjoyable. So I'll put it
Yeah,
at 4.
yeah, you're in a better spot than I am. Honestly, I'm pretty worried about what's coming. I think I'm gonna get some crap.
Just for your sake, I hope. Yeah, someone pointed out though. Imagine I get something like Magic Mountain. I have to put it at 9.
Oh,
That'd
that's
be
fine.
tough.
I mean, Mountain is a crapshoot right now. No, Maurice Spears. Okay.
I mean,
Okay, that's not horrible. I've gotten a lot of mid parks, to be fair. So
yeah,
when you look at it like that, Maurice Piers is probably better than. Yeah, I would say Maurice Piers is better than all of the small parks I have so far. So yeah, 4 is actually not that bad. But I need to get a good park for 2 though. I need to.
yeah. No, I actually, like I said, haven't been, but kind of looking at the rest, I like the feel of boardwalk parks, so I wouldn't even be surprised if like I actually prefer Maurice Spears to the ones you have below, or at least a decent chunk of them. So,
It's really good. Yeah.
all right, that's respectable. I'm just laughing because there was one person who they left their number 1 spot open a few streams ago, which is like several months ago, and they got Maurice Spears at number 1, which was funny. So. All right, what is number 9 going to be?
Bang, let's go.
No, there's no way.
What'd you get? Oh my
Someone
God.
called
He called
it.
it. Mason,
Are you
that weird
kidding me?
Shout out to Mason, man. He called it.
Mason called it.
It's actually ridiculous.
There's like the odds of that happening.
No, That's absurd.
There's no way.
Wow.
Oh, that's an
Well,
L.
I can rebound then. I could actually win this thing if I park for 2. Because I think that was like, I was joking with what I said earlier. I obviously don't think Magic Mountain deserves to go to 9. That's okay.
Oh my god. Yeah, that might have won you the whole thing. The SeaWorld San Diego, me glazing it might have cost me. Never.
What?
Well. We'll call it a tribute because it's like not gonna be around in 2 years.
ZDTs genuinely would be like probably 10 for me because there's nothing.
Oh my god.
My God.
Oh man. Wow, that is.
So your list won, I think. I think you're because even though you have Magic Mountain in the 9, the rest of the list is actually very good. And also, to be fair, if you have a bad day at Magic Mountain, it probably could be
That's a fair point. That is true because yeah, Magic Mountain on a bad day is like actually miserable.
So my mistake was I should have left some spots open at the bottom. But you don't know these things, so like that's the kind of the fun of this. So it was a good time.
Oh my god. I still can't get over the fact that Mason called exactly what was gonna happen.
No, that's absurd.
Oh my gosh. Alrighty. Let me get the poll up here.
My God.
Wow. That was one of the more chaotic one of these that has happened. That was actually insane.
So ridiculous.
I am like at a loss of words.
That 2 is unbelievably. I feel like the coaster enthusiast community is not talking enough about how he just got DDTs at 2. Who's playing ranking is most accurate? I'm literally voting for you, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
No. I ain't voting. I'll put this up on Instagram as well, just to fun of it. But wow, this wow, oh my gosh. Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
That has the same mentality as I do. Yeah.
Oh man, please come on, someone give Mark a vote. We can't let this be a clean
No, I mean,
sweep.
you deserve it. Like,
Wow. I mean, honestly, your list was like, out of the bunch we've had, this is like the most even in general, that's a horrific draw. And that's like,
okay, consider that all of this could have been avoided by my first one if I had put Waldemir at 6, which I thought about doing.
Yeah.
I probably would have won.
I would have personally, and I'm not saying this in hindsight, like, I guess I have a bit of an unfair advantage because obviously I've done this a little bit. I would have put it at either 5 or 6 actually, because
it's good. It's better, probably a little bit better than Darien Lake, definitely better than Oaks, and it's on the same level as Maury's, and it's obviously better than ZDT's.
All right, I think pretty much. I mean, I'm still at 100%, so I think we're gonna call it. Guess I won the blind ranking.
Yeah, GG's, man, but
wow, that just
100% is underrated.
Oh my gosh, that's just, yeah, okay. Like I said, that was a lot. Never that just, the call out was absurd. So, all right.
Oh my God.
Next, we'll move on to our quiz. This will actually work. I mean, you came on a while back, but this is going to work a little differently. I'm actually changing how I'm doing it for this string compared to how I've done it in the past, at least a little bit. But let me just get the quiz up. But I have basically changed the aesthetics a little bit, and then Mark. So basically how this is going to work for you is you can just say your answer out loud. Just as we're going through the questions, that's pretty much all you got to do on your end. So And then let's see.
These can be really hit or miss for me.
All right, so let's see. That's weird. It's not letting me go full screen. I don't know why, because it was working when I tested it. But let me try this again.
Oh, I can't use ChatGPT? Oh, man.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. I think it's because it should be Chrome tab should work. Yeah, there we go. All right, fixed it. Alrighty, next we have the quiz. Basically, we have 10 multiple choice theme park and roller coaster questions. 45 seconds to answer. There will be a timer on the slide, so that's a nice new thing I added. Obviously, don't use other resources. Your first answer is the final answer, and if there's a tiebreaker, the person who gets the most recent question wins. And then basically goes from there. So that's going to be the quiz. Here's our first question. Which of these parks is the oldest? The timer has begun.
This is absurd. This is so funny. Okay.
Oh, I made this quiz personally. So Frontier Coasters usually is the one who makes these for me, but I did this one personally. So
I have
you can thank me for these.
I'm going to think about it and then last second answer because I have no idea.
All right.
Give me Busch Gardens Tampa. I know there's a lot of history there.
Okay. Well,
I don't think that's right, but let's see.
timer has run out. Correct answer is Busch Gardens Tampa.
Gosh.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh
So that puts Mark on the board along with Sky Guy as well.
I'm blown away that I just got that.
And Coaster Evan also got it. Alrighty. So that is our first question. Second question. According to RCDB, which of these parks has the most operating roller coasters? Guess away.
I think it's between two for me. Like,
You guys get an extra bit of time because for some reason the timer did not go. But anyways,
it's between two for me. And I'm really not sure, but I think I'm. Can I give my answer just at any point?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna go Lagoon C.
Alrighty.
I think they have 10 or more, actually. I don't know if any of these other. I think the other one I was thinking about was Flamingo Land. I know they actually have more than what First Meets the Eye, but more than Lagoon, I'm not sure because Lagoon is a major park.
That's a fair point. You have about 9 seconds, give or take, if you have not answered yet, although I believe all the answers are basically in. So the timer is about to run out here. And I think just almost everybody got about this one right. It is indeed Lagoon. By just one, yeah. Flamingo Land, surprisingly, has a crazy amount of coasters. But yeah, Lagoon has the most with 11.
Because it's Primordial, I pushed him over 10, so that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, so Mark, you have your second point, as does Sky Guy and Coaster Evan. And then, let's see, Mason is on the board, along with Civilian Satellite. And Diesel is also on the board. Okay. All right. We'll move on to our next question, which is, which of these coasters closed most recently? So these are all defunct coasters. Which of these closed most recently? We'll see if Mark and along with Sky Guy and Evan can continue their streak so far.
Oh, this is. Oh my God. I want to say it's Speed. Because Speed, someone quizzed me on this, like a similar question on this not too long ago, and I was surprised by how recent Speed closed.
All right, fair enough. So far, the answers have all been the same. So
Okay.
unless someone breaks it, you'll all be right or you'll all be wrong. All right, timer has run out though. And that means the correct answer is A. It is indeed Speed the Ride,
Whew.
closed
Off
in
to
2011. Uh,
a strong start.
Interesting bit of trivia that no one would care to know, but basically, if you didn't know, there was actually a point in time where New Texas Giant and Speed the Ride were both operating.
Hmm.
How about that? Um, so let's see. Mark, you get a third point, as does Sky Guy. Civilian Satellite also gets gets second point, as does Diesel. Coaster Evan gets a third point. And pretty much everybody gets a second point, and then Sat Canada is now on the board. Alrighty, we'll move on to our next one, which is going to be question number 4. Which of these coasters is the shortest by height?
Ah, you like seeing me in pain.
You're 3 for 3 so far, to be
Oh, yeah,
fair.
I'm
So
not killer run.
yeah.
It's not Phoenix because I know that's what you want me to think. Um, Hydrus is pretty short, but is it White? It could be White Lightning too. I don't think it's West. I don't think it's West Coast Racers. Again, I think that's one where you kind of want me to think it could be the answer, but I don't think it is. So I think it's between A and C.
Alrighty. Well, you gotta answer pretty quick, or well, I mean, you can as long as they don't reveal.
White Lightning.
All right, you're gonna go White Lightning.
It's probably Hydrus, honestly. I think it's Hydrus.
All right, I'll reveal it. Correct answer here is D.
Oh.
West Coast Racers, 67 feet tall. It
Oh.
is the shortest of the bunch.
I
So
can't-
I believe Sky Guy was. Oh, and Stat Canada both got this one correct. Which puts Sky Guy in the lead with 4, so still perfect. But yeah, all very. I'd say Hydrus and West Coast Racers, definitely surprising how short they are, but yeah, that is the correct answer. Alrighty, we'll move on to question number 5. What was the original name of Six Flags St. Louis?
Ooh, I got this one in the bag, trust.
I'm just curious because like no one talks about this, so
It is kind of weird, and it's a weird name too.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. My answer is A. Six Flags Open.
Everyone's going for the same one again, so we'll see.
People in this chat are nerds, man, and I love to see it.
Also another one of the strategies I've seen is sometimes one person will just guess one and they all go for the same, especially if they
Right.
are trying to keep up or keep pace.
Yeah, like I'm trying not to look at chat because I don't want it to influence my answer.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. But I mean everyone who answered got this one correct. It is a Six Flags over Mid-America. Very interesting name. But Mark, you now have 4 points. Sky Guy has 5. This will be Mason's 3rd point. Coaster Evan also has a 4th point as well. And then Diesel has a 3rd point. And Civilian Satellite as well, along with Sat Canada. So there we go. Alrighty, so we'll move on to our next question, which is question number 6. Which of these coasters has never made the Golden Ticket Awards? We'll just say top 50 list. Top 25 is like really old, like so it's irrelevant. So just top 50 list.
Oh my god, this is outrageous. I don't at all Golden Ticket Award, so I just need to spew some random. You know what? I bet it's Steel Curtain because none of the people that do this have written it.
All right, okay.
That's my logic. I don't think it's right, but and then there is also the argument that it could be Phoenix because they really don't pay attention to international coasters, and Tutautis is too good, so I feel like that's kind of an exception.
Okay.
Give me Phoenix, honestly. Let's see what happens if I take Phoenix.
No, the rules are
Oh, because
first
I
answer. Yeah.
sure. Okay, that's
Okay.
I don't have a strong preference. Steel
All
Phoenix.
right. Timer has run out. I'll just let you know you would have been wrong either way, so it actually doesn't matter. It is actually
Oh,
Joker at Discovery Kingdom. Uh, your logic with Steel Curtain is very sound,
yeah.
actually, but yeah, apparently enough people wrote it at least at some point that it actually made
Oh,
it. So yeah,
well, hopefully it has a good year this year.
God, I hope so. Um, but I think Civilian Satellite was the only one to get this one on the board. So
Yeah, that was a trick question.
yeah. I was surprised. It's surprising that a ride like Phoenix actually did get it because like two tattoos that I could like yeah, as you mentioned, makes sense. But yeah, Phoenix was kind of surprising. Next, we'll move on to question number 7. Which of these coasters did not open in the 1990s? So outside of the decade. 3 of these coasters are 90s coasters, but one of them isn't. Which of these is not a 90s coaster?
Okay, I got mine. I'm gonna go D. Vortex at Canada's Wonderland.
Alrighty. You have in the chat about 15 now, 13 seconds to answer if you haven't already. A lot of people going with the same answer. Wow, okay. Um, we'll see if that pays off. Alrighty, but the timer has run out. And so the correct answer here is B, Vampire at La Ronde,
And a
opened
lot
in
of people.
2002.
Wow. Oh,
So,
Vortex 91. I knew that. Oh,
yeah. It definitely a tricky question.
and Red Field is almost 2000 too.
I put that one in there because Six Flags America one is. So
Yeah. Good.
figured some people might answer with that just because. But a lot of people got that right. Civilian Satellite has a 5th point. Sky Guy has a 6th point. Diesel has a 4th. Coaster Evan has a 5th. And then Mason has a 4th. So that's where we're at. 3 questions left. So for those of you between 4 and 6 points, basically still anyone's game. And we'll move on. Question number 8. Which of these countries has never had an Intamin coaster?
And is this just operating?
Nope. In general, ever,
Oh,
basically.
okay. So that actually narrowed it down for me a little bit.
Alrighty, some answers are already coming in.
I'm gonna go Austria A. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone's going for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes perfect sense because Brazil has the SB&O in storage, whatever. I have a sentiment. I'm not sure.
Alright. Last few seconds here to answer. Alrighty. And the clock has run out. Correct answer here is A, Austria. Has 0. Brazil's had 3. Malaysia's had 1. Vietnam has had 2.
Vietnam has 2.
Yeah, so they have a. I'm trying to remember off. One of them is a motorbike.
Yeah, motorbike, right? Yeah, but what would the other one be?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember what it was. I just remember when I was looking at it, they had another one. But I can probably find it real quick. Let's see. Intamin, Vietnam. Because I'm trying to remember what it was off the top of my head. It was a Surf Rider. It actually still operates.
Mm.
So one of those half pipe coasters.
Interesting.
It's actually at the same park that has Wrath of Zeus, Vin Wonders. So there you go. And then Malaysia obviously has Supersonic Odyssey, and Brazil has some coasters that don't exist so anymore. I'm pretty sure. So, anyways, going to the scoreboard. Mark, you have a 5th point, as does Diesel. Civilian Satellite has a 6th point. Mason also has a 5th point. Evan has a 6th point as well. Zach Canada has 4, and Sky Guy is at 7. Alrighty, so we'll move on to the next question. Which of these IPs has never officially been used for a roller coaster's theme? So, which of these IPs has never officially been used for a roller coaster's theme? That is the question.
D, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay. Few answers are coming in here.
Unless there's a Sonic coaster I'm not thinking of.
Guess we'll find out. It's between 2 different answers so far that I've seen. You have about 10 seconds left if you have not answered yet.
I'm going to stick with Sonic.
Alrighty. And the timer has ran out. Correct answer here is actually C. So, Spinball Wizard at Alton Towers was once called Sonic Spinball and themed to Sonic. So I was gonna. Have you ridden the spinner there actually?
I have, yeah, but I didn't know it was themed to Sonic, or it used to be themed to Sonic.
Yeah, so it was used at one point. So yeah, Bob the Builder never been used, so that's the correct answer. Sky Guy now has 8 points. And Civilian Satellite has 7. Mason has 6. And there we go. Okay, so then we'll move on to our final question. I think, actually, so in terms of winning, it's between Civilian Satellite and Sky Guy, but y'all can still play along, of course. Question number 10. Which of these coasters is not a relocation? As in, they have not been relocated in their lifetime.
Okay.
So
it's between 2 for me. I'm going to go Tornado at Stricker's Grove.
Okay.
I think that should be
See
correct.
what chat goes with. Yeah. Everyone's going for the same one. So you might be onto something. We'll see. Alrighty, so timer is about to run out here, and the correct answer is indeed Tornado at Stricker's Grove. So everyone who answered got it correct, but Civilian Satellite, because you were the first to answer for the final question. Oh wait, but Sky Guy did get the correct answer, so actually no, Sky Guy is still the winner. With 9 points. That's insane. And then total up for everyone else.
It's just
Mark,
that
you ended up with 6, so that's still pretty good.
Yeah, I'll take that.
And yeah, all right. So we'll give the win here to Sky Guy and move on to our next segment. But congratulations. Hope you enjoyed the hopefully improved aesthetics of the quiz, and then also just including the timer physically or just on there. I think that was much needed. So
good. Everyone did really well, actually.
Yeah, no, surprisingly, I'm happy because I made the quiz difficult, but not like absolutely impossible, which is what I'm going for. So, because man, some of the previous ones have been that Frontier Coasters has dished out have been really tough, but definitely interesting. I mean, me looking over them, I definitely have learned a lot from them. So, yeah, that'll do it for the quiz, and then we'll move on to our global roller coaster roulette. So, Mark, just to kind of explain what this is, and also for those of you watching, basically we'll get a random wheel again, and we'll alternate between the two of us. But this is not a competition. This is more so just we're getting a random wheel of parks from around the world. Whatever the wheel lands on is the park we're choosing the next coaster for. So it's just like a fun exercise of sorts. Another wheel. Yeah, we got another one. And then I also have like a list of previous parks if need be. But anyways, just so the one thing is try to not do duplicate models or type of coasters, basically. But anyways, here we go. And actually, I need to change it. Hold on, because this is the blind ranking one. I forget that it, like, every time it sets to the last one it was on, even if I have a link. Okay, there we go. Global Roller Coaster Roulette. So I'll go first for this one just to so people can kind of see how this works. We also have time to like quickly check on RCDB and chat can also give us ideas as well if they've been. We get Dream World in Australia. So they most recently have added Jungle Rush here. So I'm trying to think, has this one come up yet? Yeah, I previously picked the Vekoma STC for them, so we're not going that route. I just thought that would have been a good fit previously. Let's see, what do they have currently? Man, this is kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Because they have family coasters down, so I think we can go the route of another thrill coaster. Yeah, this is actually hard.
I think it would be another thrill because they just added Jungle Rush.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm just like, what would they go with? You know what? Let's get in another. They do have a steel type in, but this ride would be different enough. Let's get another Mach Striker in the mix.
Ooh.
Let's do that. I think that'd be a sweet addition for Dream World. So I'll put that in here. We'll go with a Mach Striker. Kind of difficult to think of something on the spot, but
yeah,
I think this would be cool to see. The B&M invert, but I didn't want to go with something that was too similar, but that would be a fair point. So, alrighty. So then we'll go back to the wheel. This will be your pick in terms of what you're choosing. You can go for the realistic-ish route or like hopes and dreams, whichever you want to go for these.
I think a middle ground goes.
All right, you got Gronalund.
Okay, wait. This doesn't include like what we know is going to come, which is a Vekoma launch coaster, right?
If they have an upcoming coaster we know of, you can choose to like basically go for something like different. Like I guess theoretically, what would be beyond it, basically.
Oh, and that's so tough because like they're really cramming this in, and Gronalund has no room. So like after this, they probably won't add a coaster for a long time.
Well, they are gonna have to remove Jetline here.
They will okay, that's true. They will remove Jetline, but I don't know if they're going to replace it with a coaster because it's already so intertwined with everything. So they would have to have a coaster that just meets that very specific criteria. I guess it would have to replace Jetline. All right, let's think about this for a second. They got Beneath the Track. They got a Mouse. They got several family coasters, I think. But they're doing a thrill coaster now. They do have a lot of family coasters. Maybe they would do another one. I bet they would. Have a Woody.
Also, for like the theoretical concept, if you want to like remove something or a ride, that's also you could do that. That's in play. So
I don't think anything here is really in danger, though. Honestly, like after Jetline. So
that's fair. Well, I'd only be concerned about the Wild Mouse just because of the way that's built in, but maybe that could be fine.
Oh my god, this is probably gonna be the hardest one I get. Like
yeah, This one's brutal.
Because this is kind of one of those where you kind of have to just go with your gut and like spew a random coaster that might make sense.
Yeah, basically.
Oh man, maybe they could do another compact type of coaster. Like I'm thinking like a Gerstlauer Infinity. You know, because Jetline was compact. They would have to make it work with the Wild Mouse. You know.
That's a good point. I think a Gerstlauer, either Infinity or Eurofighter, definitely could be something
Yeah,
that could
it's
work.
everything in the park. You could have like a finish loop, maybe go around some of the track for the mouse. Like I could see that happening. But this one,
Okay.
or
So is
or
it
a Mock Big Dipper could be a really good one too. Now I kind of want to go with that.
all right? You thinking Mock Big Dipper then?
Maybe, yeah. It could go either way, but I kind of want to go Big Dipper just for the novelty factor.
Alrighty. Kind of funny. So we end up with a Mock Striker and a Mock Big Dipper
Yeah.
for our first two, but I think for these respective parks they make sense. So, all right. Nah, I like that though. I think that could work. Alrighty. So we'll move on to my next pick. It's gonna be 5 parks between the each of us. So
Okay.
that'll be how many we're doing these for. Um, and then Six Flags Over Texas. So
Ooh.
another park, obviously, that's getting a new coaster. We know they're getting the, in all likelihood, Giga Dive. So, just looking over their lineup, I have been here, but so they've. This is interesting. They do already have a decent amount of family coasters, but they did lose one with they did lose La Vibora, so that's kind of notable.
Yeah, I would still probably say that after the dive, though, that they would probably still do another thrill coaster.
It just depends because if you look at their previous editions, Aquaman Power Wave, is that more of a thrilling coaster or family coaster kind of?
Probably, yeah, like that's tough. But they don't really market it as like the tallest and fastest water coaster in Texas or anything like that. They could,
Yeah.
so I feel like that kind of tells us that maybe that was more of a family coaster edition. Even so, that set back their coaster clock like a lot more than it probably should have. Whatever it is, by the way, I think it'll replace Shockwave. I don't think Shockwave has much longer in the park.
Yeah, that's true. Um, And if we are gonna replace Shockwave, I want to do it with something that's like decently tall because I think the problem with Shockwave is
Well, it's right on the highway. It would be tall, and I think it would be a looper as well. A looper replaces a looper, right?
yeah. Okay, I do kind of like that idea. Um,
That one's ballsy though, because like I even thought it would be a dive coaster for their next one. So I'm even surprised that they're doing that.
that I'm just trying. What would I? Because I would think like a launch coaster, but they do have Mr. Freeze. Granted, Mr. Freeze is another story in terms of how much longer exactly does that have. Wow, yeah, this is tricky. You know what? I think I will go a different route. I think I will go the family route. I am gonna go with a. I know it's Texas, but it's a smaller ride, so I think they'd be able to handle it, especially if a steel support structure. I'm gonna go with a family gravity group wooden coaster, especially because Switchback is gonna be gone. I mean, not that that matters; it's far away, anyways.
Do you think they could relocate it to the plot of land that Shockwave is on? Because
You know, I kind of like that. Hold up.
I'm actually thinking about this. I think it's very, very possible that either Fiesta Texas or Coda Land buys it. But I didn't even think about Over Texas. That's also a very good.
You know what? I am gonna. I mean, I am stealing it from you, kind of, but because we are already on the route, I actually do like the storyline of like, okay, Switchback gets relocated to over Texas, and maybe it could be the Shockwave replacement.
The only thing is Shockwave removed in time, right? Because
that's fair. I'll still put it in. It's a fun enough thing.
Yeah, and I actually like your idea for a gravity group family coaster, like one that's maybe a little bit bigger than like the average gravity group family, but not quite like a gravity group thrill.
All right, yeah, we'll go with that. There we go. That's why I like doing these because we can kind of talk these out and like kind of work things out. So all right.
Well,
Someone said Switchback could go to Lost Island, and you kind of love that
I don't.
idea.
I think Fire Runner's even pushing it. Like I'm shocked they're doing that.
Yeah, I
I
don't
love the.
know. That,
I just don't happen.
yeah,
I
I
want a coaster on their hands after they already got the Intamin. What's that called again? Matugani.
yeah, and I don't know if they want to deal with more relocated rides, honestly, given the issues that some of the ones they picked up initially already have given them. So,
Right.
but I'll spin the wheel for you. Says, look at the wheel. Oh, did someone guess that I was gonna get over Texas? Oh, St. Louis is next,
Carowinds.
and we were
So easy.
close.
This is the easiest one we're gonna get. Dive coaster done.
All right.
I'm
I
so the dive coaster here. As a matter of fact, I've actually heard rumors that the one going to Over Texas was going to go to Carowinds. And I think now that Nighthawk is gone, I think that opens up a good space for it. So I think a dive coaster for sure.
I think that's a realistic option. So I definitely think that's a good pick. Of course, like from a personal pick, I'd love to see them get a GCI wooden coaster, but
Right.
in all likelihood, yeah, B&M Dive very much, as you said,
Well, for a personal pick, I would love to see them RMC Hurler.
that's true.
But if they do that, I don't think they're going to ever add a modern Woody because I think the GP kind of view them as kind of the same thing, and so I wonder if they would do both.
Yeah, that would be interesting to kind of monitor. But I was just thinking, like, they even if they don't RMC Hurler, they can kind of have like a California's Grand America situation where they have like the older Woody, along with the new modern GCI and Gold Striker. So, yeah, no, that was a good choice. All right, picking the next one. So got some international parks early, then ended up with some North American parks. And we're gonna get Disneyland Resort. So like the larger resorts, I just did resort because it's like, easier to find a park basically.
Yeah, and especially with this one because Disney's not coasters are not their bread and butter. So
So this would be likely a forward expansion idea. And actually, I need to check back on this one because I know Disneyland has come up before in terms of
the only themed land that they might have in forward that I think could get a coaster is Frozen, which is just that little Vekoma family. But I really think they need to do something more. I think Disneyland needs to do a bigger coaster at some point.
So the last time I had that, I mean, I just threw in like just a drawn Vekoma motorbike just because, I mean, they've had experience with it before.
Yeah, that's a perfect prime location for it, but it's a matter of do they want to do that after all the delays with the one at Magic Kingdom?
Yeah. But well, that was the previous one, so I can't even do that. That is tough. The problem is I'm not as familiar with the Disneyland like for like what the themed areas would be, but you know what? Maybe we can give them like a unique Frozen coaster, not the same thing as Wandering Oak and Sliding Sleighs, because I mean honestly, I don't think it looks that great.
No, it doesn't.
Actually, I mean, we've seen. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be something like Aquila; it'd be longer. But I kind of like the idea of like a Vekoma custom family launch that's like themed to Frozen and has some like dark ride scenes like in between launches or something.
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't get any Disney ones because that's rough.
I think Disney World would be easier
Maybe. Well, I
to
don't know.
do.
Parks are getting new coasters.
But yeah, I'll just go Frozen Vekoma custom family launch.
I think that's very likely to be their next, so I think you nailed it. Or maybe not a family launch. I like that idea, though. I hope they do that. But a Vekoma coaster of some kind in the first area.
Yeah, I think that would be a welcome edition as because I just if they build Wandering Oak and Sliding Sleighs in America, I just don't see that going over well. Um, it really, I mean, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. Alrighty, your next park. We'll spin the wheel again. And oh, this is gonna be a weird one.
Oh God. What? Okay. No. This could be worse because here's what I do know is this is a Palace park. Palace loves Gerstlauer, and when you think about it, Madrid. Do they even? I think there's like Gerstlauer family coasters. I don't think they have a big Gerstlauer either of those parks. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, they don't have a big Gerstlauer, so.
So knowing that, and Parque de Atracciones is a city park, it's a little bit congested. I would say a Gerstlauer Infinity. That was my guess for. Or no, I switched it to Mock
You switched it.
I will go Gerstlauer Infinity for this one as well, because it could be a Eurofighter, but I think Infinity because this park does draw in a lot of crowds.
All right, I actually like that a lot. So.
Although, do they have? They don't have anything beneath the track here, right?
That's a good point. They do. They have Tornado.
I'm gonna change my. Oh, Tornado.
Yeah.
And is it different enough to have like 2 vertical lift hills? I bet they would. I bet they could do that. And also, too, an Infinity coaster doesn't need to have a lift hill. It could absolutely have a launch.
Yeah, it could be a launch coaster.
I want to say a launch Infinity. Think about something like Junker. That makes sense. I like that.
I mean, I think either way it would be able to fit, but yeah, I think having the launch one definitely would make a lot of sense. So yeah, I'm down. Abysmo, I mean,
with the lift hill, with the vertical lift hill, I would agree, but with a launch, I think it's definitely different enough.
And I mean, we've seen different areas in Europe, but we've seen some parks in Europe that have some very redundant rides. So, actually, the park that has Junker, for example, having 2 of the same model. So, yeah, no, I like that though. Alrighty, last few parks for both of us. So. This one is going to end up being Kennywood. Is this the steel curtain replacement?
This one's rough, too.
You know what? I might actually game plan it as the steel curtain replacement, as sad as that is.
Oh, my.
I don't know how much faith I have in that, honestly.
I think it's going to have a good year this year.
I hope it has a good year. Let's see. Because otherwise, I mean, years and years ago, they tried to get like a terrain RMC coaster and that didn't work out for whatever reason.
They couldn't use the terrain on the back end of Racer, I think.
Yeah, it was. I think you were right. It's like it was unfeasible. And then another Palace Park, so you can kind of look down the road of.
Do they have anything under the track?
I was kind of thinking that was where my mind was actually headed. They do not. Kind of a weird out there thing, but I don't know exactly what their land usage is, and I'm thinking a Gerstlauer Infinity invert. Just do something wacky.
That probably would have been mine as well.
Yeah. I think that's the route. I feel like that actually fit pretty nicely, and that doesn't even necessarily have to replace steel curtain. They could probably get really weird with a layout like that. So yeah, we're gonna go with the Gerstlauer Infinity invert. So yeah, there we go. All right. Next park for you, and then it'll be down to our last 2 that we're choosing. Alrighty, and you're gonna get Faroop Summerland.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. This park is more of a family-oriented park. Like, if you've been on Phoenix, it's actually not that intense. Lena's the most intense thing there, but it's... Yeah, that's an outlier. It is the most intense thing there by a decent bit. Having said that, I think that was an outlier. I don't think they're going to do something like that again. Because Phoenix was a large scale coaster, I want to say they'll probably do a family coaster next. They got some good rides on the top there. Oh man, and this is I believe an independent park.
Yeah.
So, point of reference as far as like manufacturers they might go with.
Well, they love Vekoma. I mean, that's clear. They've worked with Gerstlauer, so.
So you know what I could see them doing is a a Vekoma family launch of some kind. But I'm actually thinking they don't have anything that goes backwards, do they?
They do have the family boomerang.
Yeah, but okay, that's fair. That is true. So they probably wouldn't do a Vekoma switchback. So probably just give me a traditional Vekoma family multi-launch. I think that's good.
All right.
They have a launch coaster, but it's very intense. I think this is definitely different enough.
Yeah. I don't know what exactly is in budget for this park, so I think maybe a ride like size layout, more like something like, I mean, obviously it's indoors, but like something outdoors, like similar to like a Kila, where maybe it goes around twice, is probably feasible.
The one at Furavik has 2 laps as well. I think it would be just like that.
Yeah. The one at Fruvik, the layout doesn't look great, honestly.
Someone in chat said the Gerstlauer Airtime coaster, and I like that too.
That would be a good fit.
But that is a good. The only thing is that there's only been one of those, so we don't have a point of reference as to how popular that is. So I'm gonna still stick with my answer.
Allegedly, there was talks of one that they were in negotiations for an American one, but we don't know where. And I hope that has progressed, but we'll see.
That model is so good.
Yeah. I'm excited to see the Mechalodon at Wallaby, Belgium. That should be a great ride. All right. Well, that's ironic. We got Jers Summerland.
Oh gosh. This one's actually pretty easy, though, if you've been keeping up with the news.
I know that there was... Oh, but the problem is, I think I actually already got this one earlier. So there were rumors, I think, a while back that they were going to get an Intamin multi-launch, if I'm correct there. I don't know what you had heard. Or an Intamin LSM launch, I should say. If there was something else on the table, I'm not aware of it. But that's what I was familiar with, and I actually did go with that before, so that's kind of out of the question for me. What were you thinking, Mark, just out of curiosity?
Oh, yeah, it was that. It was like a Tutautis clone or something similar. I actually
have
possibilities written down. So one of the ones I was thinking, I have 2 kind of written down that are cool. So one of them is like a GCI family Woody. They don't have anything made of wood. This park actually has a really complete lineup, like for what it is. And they have so many Intamins. So I feel like once they do the standout coaster, I think this would be the next one, the Intamin Blitz thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do something a little bit more family oriented. That's why I'm leaning family GCI. It also could be a gravity group, so one of those 2, but something about a GCI, I don't know, it just sounds right for some reason. And then a Gerstlauer Infinity Invert also kind of makes sense too.
That's a good shout. I feel like at this point that'll probably happen down the line, and since I actually already did it, like mentioned that one as a prediction in a previous episode, we'll just kind of go off the thinking of, okay, this Intamin LSM launch, they're gonna get it, and that's gonna be a thrilling coaster. So I'm thinking probably more along the family route. I think a family wooden coaster definitely would make a lot of sense here.
Fair Up Summerlin has something like that, and the 2 parks seem to mimic a lot of what they did. Also, I said Gerstlauer Infinity Invert. I realize that's too similar to Drag Kong, so actually probably Gerstlauer Infinity makes more sense. But like something that goes upside down a bunch of times, because I don't believe this park has inversions right now.
Mm-hmm. You know, something else that kind of sticks out to me that is a family coaster, and I kind of wanted to go with something a little different. I just making sure they do not have one. I think a spinning coaster. They don't have one currently. That could be a nice fit. Something like say Sierra Sidewinder or something like that. So
yeah. The reason I wouldn't personally guess that is because they've been adding so many family coasters.
That's fair, but I mean it seems like a family oriented park, but
it is, yeah. But they are willing to take an extra step towards a thrilling ride, then fair up it, I think.
That's fair. Like I said, I'm kind of going off the logic that that Intamin coaster does happen, and this is gonna be what's after it. So, because yeah, if we were just going off a clean slate, then yes, I would go for more of a thrill coaster because their last few editions have definitely been more the family route. But yeah, we'll go mock spinning coaster for my final one, and that's for Jer Summerland. And then this will be the final park for Global Roller Coaster Roulette. I'm looking at the time. I think we'll roll into final Q&A after this, so that'll be our last segment. Bobby on land.
That's this is another one I actually have written down some possibilities.
Okay.
So the first one that I had was a Gerstlauer. Oh yeah, okay. So logic here. Dreamcatcher is a Vekoma invert that they currently have that it has to be on its last legs because it was so bad when I did it, and it's a very old ride. It's kind of out of place. So I want to say they could remove that and maybe replace it with a Gerstlauer invert, because when you look at this park, they love Gerstlauer. They have a Eurofighter, they have an Infinity. Why not throw in an Infinity invert? Or not even an Infinity invert. What about like the one at Parque del Cafe in Colombia, which just has a lift hill? Maybe they want to stray away from a launch coaster.
I think it's still under the Infinity Invert model.
Okay.
But yeah, it has a lift hill.
I still like that idea then. And then the other thing I thought of is if they want to replace that indoor coaster, which seems also kind of like on borrowed time maybe a little bit, they could replace that with an Intamin multi-dimension. They also have that body of water, they could put a coaster over there like an Intamin straddle. So I like all these ideas, but I'll say the Gerstlauer invert, because I also think they'll probably do another thrill coaster. Maybe they have a lot of family coasters.
Yeah, I can, looking at the lineup, they are very loaded there.
I love Gerstlauer, so I just feel like this makes them.
And I'll throw in replacing Dreamcatcher, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that way, like, if someone just looks at it, like a screenshot, they're like, wait, why would they do that? Yeah, okay. This makes more sense, but...
Yeah.
All right. I like that, though. That's good thinking, because, I mean, if it was in as bad of shape as you mentioned, and I just looked at Dreamcatcher, I mean, 1987, Vekoma swinging turns, like, old model, probably not being supported much anymore.
Not great.
Civilian Satellite says he loves Revolution.
Oh, I love Revolution. I think it's awesome, but it's like it's the only one of its kind, and it's so old. So like I don't know, I could totally see them getting rid of that. It's also kind of tucked away in a corner. It's hard to find the entrance.
Interesting. But yeah, no, that's definitely a good call. I like that idea. Alrighty, so that's our Global Roller Coaster Roulette. Hope you enjoyed that segment, and then we'll move on to our final Q&A and by ourselves. So any last questions you have for either of us, go ahead and chat, and we'll pretty much go from there. So that'll be the plan. Just look for the overly themed Domino's Pizza sign.
That's very true.
I think I saw it in someone's video. Don't know if it was Canopy Coaster, or it might have been yours actually. Just like, yeah, that it was like weirdly well themed. Someone asked how my Italy trip was. So I actually, for those of you who don't know, I went to Italy at the very beginning of this year. I actually flew over New Year's Eve. So 2025, I landed actually in Amsterdam, then I had to fly to Italy. Didn't do any coasters or parks, just not right time of year for it, and I wasn't in the right areas. I went to Milan, Florence, Naples, and Rome. Naples/Pompeii, I should say, and Rome. It was a great trip overall. Rome was definitely my favorite city. The architecture was amazing. Some awesome food. I mean, the pizza especially. Yeah, pizza in Italy, elite. I mean, no surprise there. God, it was so good. I actually wasn't quite as impressed with the pasta dishes I had, but maybe I'm just kind of lower on.
I haven't been to Italy yet, and I'm waiting. I want to wait because Italy kind of I don't know, it deserves multiple weeks. There's so much
Mm-hmm.
there from the cities, like you mentioned, the food, the nature. I could do a lot of travel dash content out of that, and then of course the parks. So Italy looks unbelievably amazing.
I didn't spend any time in the Alps, but our plane flight flew over it because I
Yeah,
mean, when we went from Netherlands and Milan, I mean, just from what I could see, absolutely beautiful. So, and I'm sure there's other areas, but I just with Travel Dash, that's just one of the things I thought of. So, um, yeah, no, there's a lot to see and do for sure. I don't want to go too long with that, but because I think I addressed it last stream too. So if you want more thoughts, I'd refer to that. But it was an excellent trip. Except for the ending, I think I also explained that it was just coming back to America was a disaster because
mm,
that was where I got stuck in Atlanta for 2 extra days because of
right.
the snowstorms. So I have family over there, so at least we were able to visit with them. But that was the only thing that wasn't great. Um, what year was your first and last visit to Cedar Point? Mark, I'll let you take this one.
My first visit to Cedar Point was 2019 summer. My last visit to Cedar Point was also summer, but this time 2024, and I am planning on making a return visit in the summer of 2025.
Nice. So my first and only visit was in 2009, June of 2019. I think it was
That was low-key prime Cedar Point. Like that was the best year I've ever spent at Cedar Point.
I forget if it was right before or right after Coaster Mania. But I just remember that was like the year, at least at that point in time, like people were saying that Millennium Force wasn't running super great. But in general, otherwise, yeah, it was a great year, I had a great time there. So, um, yeah, definitely was like the peak before the fall, basically. So, just based on what I've heard. Mason mentions that they used to think that front
So
seat
many
POV still.
people think that. So many people thought that, and actually, a lot of people still think that. I don't know why. It literally says right there in the comments, like the pinned comment says, that Mark and Josiah filmed the POVs. So
I have a link to all of Mark's channels in the description, so if you need to check out any of those, make sure to do that. Front seat POVs, of course, being one of them. But yeah, that is funny though that you've had a lot of comments saying that. Do we like the idea of over Texas having one train on freeze forward and the other backward? Mark, your thoughts on this?
yes, actually, I was so lucky to go in. I want to say it was August of 2023. Yeah, 2023. And it was I was expecting to miss freeze. I'd already been at the park before, so it wasn't a deal breaker. But I was expecting to miss freeze, but it actually ended up reopening that day after being down for a month and a half refurbishment. So I was so glad about that. But also since it had just reopened, both of the sides were running, so I got to choose between a front and backwards train. And I don't know how often that happens. As far as I'm concerned, most of the time it is one or the other. Same with Super Metascape and Krypton at Magic Mountain. It was hardly ever both sides when they switched them around. But I thought it was so cool. As much as I do prefer the traditional reverse blast mode, I could still appreciate the differing ride experience going forwards. Of course, you go forwards and backwards either way, right?
Yeah.
But it is still cool having that differentiation. So I think it's a fun idea for sure.
So the funny thing is, I'm like probably one of the only, I would say, I guess, younger enthusiasts nowadays who've only ever ridden it forward because I wrote it in that time period
Oh,
where they only had it forward.
that's interesting.
At Over Texas. It was actually June of the same year. It was a last minute decision to go out to Over Texas because of a long layover. I only got to ride it once, but I thought the coaster was excellent, and I think I would have loved to experience the backward side. So I think theoretically that's awesome that you can experience both, but unfortunately it's mostly theoretical because most of what I've heard it's usually one or the other. But it's great that when you were able to go, it was perfect timing in terms of experiencing both.
Yeah, forwards is cool, but there's nothing quite like going up that vertical spike and then just staring at the ground from 200 feet. It's absurd. It's so
Yeah, it looks. I really want to ride it back, get a ride backwards, especially if it's on borrowed time. Yeah, well, hopefully it has a decent amount of time left, but we'll see. For you, country with the most challenging language barrier.
Okay, I mean, I think it goes without saying, but probably Turkey. It's the only country I've been to, technically in Asia. So I can now say I've been to Asia. Of course, it's like half European, half Asia, the parts that I went to. And you kind of get a mix of both cultures, like mainland Europe and then also a little bit of Asia, from what I gather. But it was a little bit hard to get around even in Istanbul. Like the taxi drivers, like hardly any of them spoke any English. And the main thing was like trying to communicate with them. Like, we have to run to an ATM to get you your money. We'll be right back. It was really hard to communicate that. Fortunately, Google Translate comes in clutch just about anywhere you go. The other one I would say is Estonia, but I was literally there for a day. I just did a ferry from Finland to Tallinn to check the city out, which was amazing, by the way. I highly recommend it if you're going to Finland for coasters. But yeah, that was fine because it was just a day. But Turkey for sure.
I just got. I'll kind of plug your thing real quick. I listened to, I think it was your most recent episode of the Dashcast that you guys did, and you mentioned this crazy story that you had in Turkey.
Yeah,
Just trying to get it was Red Fire, right? Or
yeah,
Nefiska? Yeah, okay, Red Fire it was. Yeah, go check that out as well. That story was insane. So just all the kind of risk of going there,
yeah.
going back after a few
Oh,
weeks, and then
right, like Japan. I'm sure it's gonna happen in Japan, something like that, or China. But it's just part of being an enthusiast. But yeah, flying to Turkey for a day from Switzerland to get a coaster that was closed, your most anticipated coaster in the country that was closed. It's a story, that's for sure.
yeah, that definitely was wild. That's really cool in the Yav. Let's see. Let's see. um, I'll give you a follow, Sky Guy, after the stream. I will do that. So I'll make sure to do that after the stream. Um, let's see. Which Strata coaster would we have recommended more had they been operating? Well, I never rode Cost, so I unfortunately can't speak on it. I actually was trying to get out or looked into getting out to it during the last week, but it was gonna cost me like almost I think it was like $650 round trip to fly
Yeah,
from my city, and I'm like, with El Toro closed, I'm like, I can't do that. That's
yeah. I was
just
lucky.
nuts.
I think I went on the last week where both King Dakot and El Toro were running last season. I was so lucky to time that, and I hung out with El Toro Ryan for a while. That was just probably my best visit to Great Adventure. It was so fun. But I would have said Dragster. I mean, like, they're both outstanding, absolutely phenomenal. But Dragster was the better ride. I mean, I had lap bars. It's literally just the question is basically like which ride is better, and I'm going Dragster because it has lap bars.
I would guess I would have between the two. I mean, I absolutely love Dragster, so I'm guessing that probably would have been my preference. It's still Kingdom Come closing. I haven't like talked about it too much on my personal end. Out of all the coasters I've missed, just not because I wasn't able to ride it. That's one of the ones that hurts me the most personally. Just because like growing up as an enthusiast, that's like the one. It's like, oh my god, it's gonna be so cool to ride the world's tallest coaster, like and it's event like there, like it's a
Yeah.
bucket list ride for such a long time, and then to miss it in the way that that happened was really unfortunate. But I mean,
But
that stuff
uh,
happens.
I
I'm
feel
happy I rode Dragster at least.
I feel like Dota Dompa is my biggest gut punch that I've made.
That one's like almost right up there because yeah, that one hurts more because at least King Nakat's like
Similar.
or
Like, that's the
it,
thing. Dragster closed. I was like, one, I'm glad I got to ride it. But even if I hadn't gotten to ride it, at least King Dakot's still around.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, now it's if you never got to do either, I am so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you got Formula Rosa still,
But
I guess.
if you're an American watching this, you never got to do Dragster or Ka. Realistically, are you going to go to the United Arab Emirates? Probably not.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough draw there. But I guess at least it's more motivation, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. Um, Ooh, this is a great question from Vince. Someone gives you a free ticket to either your top bucket list park or top bucket list nature hike. Which do you take?
It's kind of a greedy answer, but like when if I'm getting a free ticket to my top bucket list park, which in this case would be Tokyo Disney Sea, I want to say, and I get to Disney Sea, then I'm thinking to myself, okay, does that mean I can or can't go to other Japanese parks? You know, with the hiking, like what would be my top bucket list hike? Because I've done most of my top bucket list hikes in America, or um, yeah, I can't. It's not coming to me right now. I've done all the inner Grand Canyon hiking. I've done the crazy stuff at Zion. I just did Big Bend in Texas. I've done all the crazy stuff on the east of the United States. Um, yeah, I guess I would go. I guess I would go hike, just because, especially with parks, I want to make sure I'm hitting everything in the region. I'm not sure how that factors into the question though. Like, can I go do even if I have to pay for it? Can I go do other things nearby? Because with both parks and hiking, I like to tie a bunch of stuff in to make a big trip out of it, you know?
The way I always look at these questions is like the literal hypothetical. You are basically teleported to the thing, and once you're done, like that's it.
Yeah.
Um,
So in
so
that case, I'm going to go hike because if I do, yeah, I'm going to go hike. Because if I do a Tokyo Disney Sea day, there's still a very good chance that I won't get the Fantasy Spring.
oh,
There's a very good chance that I wouldn't get a virtual queue for Fantasy Springs.
mm, lagging a bit on my end. Oh, hold on. Okay, hold up. Still lagging a bit. Alrighty,
Are we
we'll try to
working?
work
Are we
through
working?
this. All right, I got you back. You're back.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, sorry about that. Um, so yeah, like I was saying, with Tokyo Disney Sea, if I get to Disney Sea,
Actually,
then
Civilian Satellite, I think, is right. Fantasy Springs was recently taken off virtual queue.
oh yeah, that's true. But the rides in Fantasy Springs, I should say.
Yeah, the rides are still on virtual queue. The area itself isn't, but yeah, the rides
Right.
still.
But that's a risk. So knowing that, and like, there's no stress when it comes to hiking, right? It's completely different.
What would be your top bucket list hike?
Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think about maybe something at Mount Rainier National Park in Washington or North Cascades National Park in Washington. I haven't done much in Washington State, which is kind of crazy to think. Oh, actually, maybe it would be Grinnell Glacier at Glacier National Park in Montana. I haven't done that. I'm actually planning to do that this summer, so that looks absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I still need to see more of your content. I did see some of your the countdowns you did for the national parks, just like out of curiosity, just if I was like nearby anything or
Yeah,
whatnot. Because even though I'm not, um, I haven't been to too many. It's something that it's of some interest to me.
sure.
So um, yeah. So, but that seems like a good choice. Um, what year did we first become coaster enthusiasts? I'll answer this one first. I became a coaster enthusiast in 2013. Really, it was my visit to Knott's Berry Farm that I had that year that really put me over the edge because I kind of had some interest, but I was still scared of coasters at that point. I was like interested in experiencing all these different ones. Started doing like my own personal rankings. Obviously, my channel didn't exist for like another 6 years, but like I was still watching coaster content and everything for like 6 years prior to that. Um, and Montezuma's Revenge. That is the coaster that I credit for
Hmm.
getting me into coasters, and it's such a shame to see that that is probably not going in the right direction. But um, yeah,
Ooh, I want to say 2013, 2012, 2011, one of those years. The reason I don't exactly remember is because the first big coaster I ever did was California Screamin', But I'm not sure if it immediately clicked with me. Like, obviously, I love the ride. I kept doing it over and over and over again. But I don't know if I immediately got home and just like looked up POVs of Dota Dompa, you know. So I'm not sure, but I can definitely confirm that 2013 was the absolute latest year that I would have been a coaster enthusiast. So,
All right, so around the same time, I guess both of us then.
yeah.
Let's see. Theme Park Guy Productions. Hello, I see you in the chat. Wanted to make sure I mentioned that former guest of Coaster Time. So, what was it? Let's see. What's the next question? Do either of us have any plans to get to Canada's Wonderland Alpenfury this year? I don't have super concrete plans in general outside of I'm probably going to be back in the Orlando area during IAPA. I imagine I'll do some other trips, but and there's some things I have on the radar. Canada's Wonderland isn't necessarily one of those things, so probably not, but Mark seems to have plans, so.
Yeah, I'll make it out there this year one way or another because Alpenfury is probably one of the most intriguing new coasters to open this year, in my opinion. So fascinating. It's so different from like anything Cedar Fair's added recently, right? So, yeah, I'm gonna try to go in June. If it's not open in June, I will go in the fall. But I will make it there one way or another this year.
Yeah, my travel plans, they hinge on a few different things. I've actually applied to an internship at Dollywood. I think I've mentioned it on the Instagram page, but we'll see if that works out. Obviously, if it does, I'd be temporarily relocating there and probably doing stuff kind of in the area, and I'd be driving to and back from it.
Yeah.
We're currently working on getting myself my own car, which should be coming pretty quickly here. So that'll obviously give me a lot of freedom as well. So a few different things kind of hinging, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, I don't think Canada's Wonderland's in the cards for this year, but definitely something I want to get to pretty soon. For both of us, and actually let me look at what the time is right now. Let's see. Let's see. Any questions that come in before, what is it? For us, PST, it'll be 8:15, 11:15 we'll answer. But I'll probably do a cutoff there if that's fine with you, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm good to do a few more. I have an answer for one. Lightning round at Dollywood. And this is between my first rides in 21 with the launch, which I was like, it's fantastic, but I got up disappointed. I absolutely did not think it was one of the best coasters in the world. I could see how maybe it was, back when it was launching full speed. But then last year, I got to do it again, and this was in the summer too, so maybe it was just running fast, but I did it with the lift hill, and I was blown away by it. It's like, what in the world happened? Because as far as I'm concerned, it should have been a weaker ride experience than without the launch, right? But no, it shot up my ranks probably about 30 to 40 spots, from like the 70s or 60s or something like that to, I want to say it's like 30s or something like that.
Okay. This is an interesting one because I'm like trying to think off the top of my head. There are some rides that like early when I was an enthusiast, like I had very different opinions on. Like actually I couldn't tell you like in terms of, because I didn't like do full on rankings until like a good bit into my hobby. But I would say one, for example, is Viper at Magic Mountain. When I was younger, I think just where my head was with the restraints was not in a good spot. I had a much lower tolerance to roughness, so I actually really did not like it early on. But I mean, the more and more I ride it, it's a very good aero looper, and I don't know if it's quite in my top half of the it is in the top half of coasters at Magic Mountain. I was just thinking of the major 16 if it's like top 8, but no, it's in the top half of coasters I have at Magic Mountain now. Very, very good ride. So I would probably say, like, kind of unofficially, that would be my pick, just because it went from a ride that I literally like did not like at all to a ride that I try to ride every time I'm there now. So that would definitely be a significant one. Um, Giant Dipper, I'd say actually kind of as well over time because it's always been a coaster I've liked. But the more and more I ride it, I just am like, wow, this is truly an absolutely excellent wooden coaster. So, but I would still probably say Viper's my pick.
Yeah, like Viper and Apocalypse actually both would be pretty high on my list. The only thing is I was GP-ish, on my first visit to Magic Mountain in 2015. So I don't really count that. But if you did count, just how it changed, your opinion on it over time in general, then probably Apocalypse and then Viper, actually.
Yeah, that's fair. Apocalypse is one that's risen, I would say a little bit. I wouldn't say like in the same realm, but yeah, that's another one too that definitely has changed over time. Um, let's see. Yeah, caught closing Veterans Day weekend, made flying out there really hard. And yet, I mean, it sounds like everyone who at least went to write it, it was worth it, which, I mean, that's obviously the good thing to see. It just, for me personally, that was like, because that was right before my IAPA Florida trip, so that just, budget-wise, that was going to be really difficult.
I was just so lucky to be in the area.
Yeah.
Really well for me.
Uh, Civilian Settle, I think, like, just mentioned, like, when you were talking about hiking areas, like, somewhere in Alaska, perhaps.
Oh, so that's an interesting one because, okay, Alaska, in terms of spots, like national parks and different areas you can go to, is probably the most beautiful state in America. But in terms of hiking, probably not. So I wouldn't say there's a hike in Alaska that would exceed something in Montana or Washington for me, because a lot of it is you have to take like a float plane to get out there, and then you just kind of get out and you have a little bit to explore, or you do camping, right? But not as many hiking trails. So no, Alaska would qualify for me.
All right. Let's see. Zach from Theme Park Guy Productions asked, what ride should you rope drop at Knott's Berry Farm? You have a lot more experience visiting than I do. So what would be your pick?
Yeah, I have a clear idea for this one because I do it all the time. And it's not just one ride. You can go to the back of the park. There won't be people there for like an hour and a half. You can get 10 laps on accelerator, basically without leaving your seat. You can go do hang time 5 times. Knock out the back of the park, berry tails, all the dark rides. I always love doing the log ride pretty early because that can also get a really long line. So all of these pretty early. I would not do Ghost Rider early because as much as that does get really long, it's also going to be running slow. So your impression on it, if you've never been to Knott's before, is going to be lower because you did it right away. I would just bite the bullet and expect to wait a long time for Ghost because that's what's going to happen. But I would say start in the back and you'll have a fantastic experience.
Do single shots still exist at Knott's? I have never used a single shot at Cedar Fair parks, but
I don't think so. I don't know if did they ever exist at Cedar Fair? I know they did at Six Flags parks.
they did. They were testing them out at some Cedar Fair parks. I don't know if they actually. I think Kings Island did it a little bit. There were a few parks that like messed with it. I don't know if they actually still exist. I've only ever used them at Six Flags parks, rarely, but like I think at Discovery Kingdom, that was like the only way I could ensure that we got on Joker because we kind of left that toward the end, but we were able to get 2 rides on it actually. So
I think from a business perspective, it makes so much sense doing the single shots, but I also don't like it at the same time because I feel like it gives these parks more of an excuse to have slower operations.
that's true. I like having the option in some instances, but like it's got to be very specific because it's not something that, like I said, I've used it once, and that was like a very specific scenario. But like that's a ride that I'm like, okay, that would probably be worth because it's just crazy. But yeah, the last thing Knott's needs is more of an excuse to be slow. So, let's see. We're getting into the last few questions here. What year do we think was the last? I think we kind of answered this 2019 for Cedar Point.
2019 was their last amazing year, but I wouldn't say they've had an unsuccessful year, maybe like ever. Because I mean, a successful year is just breaking even, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if you're talking like for the
Relative
park side of things, then yeah, I don't think they've had an issue. It's just from an experience side of things,
Maybe
probably a lot.
Top Thrill 2 definitely hindered, their last season, but it's still not like a deal breaker for them. It's not like they didn't have a good profit, probably.
Yeah, so I mean, it just comes down to basically like guest experience. Yes, there'd be an answer, and
But
I think we mentioned.
2019 was outstanding because you had Dragster in its prime, you had Wicked Twister. Operations were good, whereas now, it's sometimes good, sometimes not so good. So yeah, 2019 was killer. I see your point.
And then I mean, Steel Vengeance obviously was there too because it
Yeah,
was only year two.
and that was
So
hype was still fresh too. So, like everyone was talking about that.
yeah, we weren't at the point yet where everyone started, not everyone, but a lot of people started trashing on it for like no reason.
Oh, it's
Um,
like borderline under now.
that's true at this point. Um, alrighty. How could Intimidator 305 be changed to make it your number one? And
Get rid,
then also, okay, yeah, just go with that one first.
get rid of the trim. Like if you do that, then because that's my only criticism with that ride. I don't think the trim is as bad as some people say, but like it doesn't end with the strongest moment, whereas it could be like one of the top parts if it didn't trim. So I think a more consistent ride experience the whole way through that could have done it. Because Ride to Happiness, in all fairness, does have that one turn before the second launch that I'm also like not huge about, and it's the only part of the ride that I don't think is like a 10 out of 10. So, yeah, but they both kind of have that. So I don't technically think there's a coaster I've been on that's like absolutely perfect. There's definitely like 15 plus that I've done that are damn near close. But yeah, I threw a 5 that you just get rid of the trim. I think that would do it. And also theme it up too with Pantherian. I think it's going to get some theming.
All right.
Oh, and what do you guys think will be the next coaster Six Flags gets rid of?
I think there's some that I think there's like two specifically that I think they're never operating again, and we don't know it. Um, the first one is Batwing at Six Flags America. I think that thing's
Oh,
toast.
really? Like never again?
But yeah, no, I don't think I think it's done. And then
Really? How come?
Flash vertical velocity at Discovery Kingdom's the obvious one. But
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although both of those, actually, no, I'm going to disagree with both.
really,
First with Batwing because they have the spare parts from Nighthawk. That's number one. Number two, they probably would have announced it by now. I know they've been iffy about the announcement, but they probably would. We probably would have figured it out by now. And the only reason I say that is because they've started their maintenance on coasters for the next season probably already, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I think actually I'm leaning more toward Batwing closing before Flash though, and the reason I say that is because I have heard of work happening to Flash,
okay, that's promising.
which is crazy because like a few months ago I would have absolutely agreed that's the most likely thing to close.
If it reopens, I'm going there so quick.
Oh no, I'm driving from San Diego. But I think my answer would probably be Superman Escape from Krypton. I think that is cooked. I think that's so boned.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, that I think, no, I agree. Oh, I forgot uh Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland is cooked. It wasn't in the ride operators manual. It got removed completely. Yeah.
Good thing.
That thing is dead. It's like unofficially dead, but like yeah, it's gone. Unless they just for some reason didn't include it. Because they have like the areas listed and whatnot, and Time Warp wasn't on it. So that one is dead. I do agree with Escape from Krypton. The Flash thing gives me hope. Batwing, I've heard not so great things, but sure. maybe what I've heard is
I can
incorrect.
Although I hope not, because I love that model and that ride is great, and I also just rode it.
So. Yeah, I hope it's BS because then we would. I mean, that model would be extinct.
And then Diamondback at Frontier City, I'd be very worried about too.
Yeah, that's another one that's like.
Well, it didn't even run for half the year last year.
Yeah, that's another one that's pretty tough. In terms of, I don't think that one's got much longer either, if at all, because I mean we're like.
And then Shockwave too. Shockwave, yeah.
Shockwave. I mean, I don't think that one's like dead yet, but like it's probably pretty close. Yeah. I mean, that one I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't I guess they already closed Lobby Bore and the other stuff. I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't kill it,
Mhm.
actually. Just because I think it does have like the older Schwarzkopf trains and wheel assemblies that I'm guessing some parks are probably. I don't know how that parks are feeling about those nowadays. So yeah, that's a tough situation. Um, your top three at Canada's Wonderland.
Probably a generic answer: Leviathan, Behemoth, Yukon.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah. See, I mean, that'll hopefully change with Alpine Fury, obviously, but
Alpine Fury would be two,
yeah, it looks really good.
maybe three, because it is a premiere, and I'm not a big fan of premiere. It's just this layout looks so cool that I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, the layout looks incredible, so I think we're in for a good time there. All right, I think we got.
Oh, he said you would put Vortex at three. That's fair. Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard that opinion, so I can respect it.
Vortex is very good.
Um, we'll just answer the questions that have been put in at this point. So, um, just a
Hmm.
few more. Worst news in the theme park industry, like the one that just hit hardest. Oh gosh, that's
Well, he's talking news, and honestly, the Top Thrill 2 announcement was like one of my least favorite things. But it's funny because now people have written it, and now the reviews are pretty positive. So actually, at this point in time, it's nowhere near the worst. But at the time that it was announced, I was like, no way a coaster that accelerates to 70 miles per hour in like 50 seconds is going to outclass Top Thrill Dragster, one of my all-time favorite coasters. I would also say just the closures of Dragster and Ka, realizing I wouldn't ever get to do Dota sucks. Oh, and then the COVID stuff, like if you count,
yeah, definitely would be up there. But that I
but
think that's a
more general.
yeah, that's I think like a world situation. So I think that's a little different because yeah, obviously that would be just in general very high up. I mean up there, but um, the Top Roll 2 one is funny because I was in Portland like traveling and I saw like the leaks. I'm like okay like. I think I was under the opinion the Top Thrill 2 name was like a placeholder. That wasn't the actual name of the
Yeah,
ride.
same.
And
The
then
name pissed me off. That was one of the worst things about it, low key.
and I'm like, oh my god, that's actually what the name. Like, I'm like, wow, the article is like, it just got fully leaked. That was insane. Um, I think, uh, I think probably Dododompa. You mentioned it earlier, and King Ka definitely also, but King Ka kind of, although both of them kind of had like a lead
I
up that
go to
things
Dome.
were not
Go to
gonna
go to
be
Dome for
good.
my overall pick because at least with Dragster and Ka, you have other launches kind of like that.
But yeah, Dododompa that one was you could kind of see it coming, but that was really unfortunate. So that probably would be my pick.
Well, I was
Um,
kind of even a little surprised. I didn't think they were going to. I know safety is very serious in Japan, but I wouldn't have expected a ride to permanently, especially one that major, to permanently close due to human error. That surprised me.
yeah, I, I did not have a good feeling about it,
And
but
then it's like, who's to say that doesn't happen with Ejinaika? Someone bashes their head hard on the restraint, and that closes permanently. If that's how they operate in Japan, that's not a good look. But also keeping it open isn't a good look, to be fair, either. So I get it from a business perspective. I get it because I know Japan's had some history with accidents and things too.
yeah,
But still, Dota Donpa closing, I feel like they could have done something.
I think I've thrown out my theory for why the Dododompa stuff was happening at least like now more recently than before. I've like I said, just a theory. They added over the shoulder restraints in 2016. I think people instinctively lean their head forward, and then that's what caused the whiplash. Like I said, just complete guess, but that's like my speculation as to
There will
why it was an
launch
issue.
like her again, and
Yeah.
launch that even comes close to that accelerator, like at all. So that is absurdly disappointing.
That being said, I will say, if X2 closes, that'll take the cake. I will, in terms of if that like news breaks out at some point in the future, that one would like legitimately devastate me. Um, the only thing saving it, I guess, is if the Fast and Furious coaster at Universal Hollywood is as insane like as we think it could be.
Yeah.
That at least would be like, at least here in SoCal we have a ride that's kind of uh
No, X2 closing would kill me. I agree.
yeah.
Because California in general, when you look at it relative to other states, actually has kind of fallen behind like Florida, Texas, and some of these other places for new coasters. Of course, aside from Hollywood Drift, and also just like the best coasters overall. Like Florida has two coasters that are easily better than anything in California, in my opinion. Um, and I feel like, I mean, that could change with Hollywood Drift, like I said, but X2 is kind of the one exception. That's such an outstanding ride and so unique too.
Yeah, I just, that would be, I mean, that'd be worse than like, I mean, when Great America closes for good, that's gonna be sad, obviously.
I forgot about that. That could literally be my answer, actually.
That is like when it actually, I mean, even
But it
getting
has,
the news that was
right?
depressing,
It has,
but
and it's like over a 10-year span.
it, I, well, I don't feel good about it
No,
lasting much longer.
absolutely not. Discovery Kingdom being the Bay Area's only major park is horribly awful. No, that sucks. That sucks.
That the first stream I did, I think, or first thing I think I put out was like, that was like one of the first things I thought of. I'm like, oh my god, Discovery Kingdom's the only major park left. That's like the worst. That's like even worse than almost as bad as the fact that Great America's closing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that would be. But that one, either of those, when those happen, I think that'll overtake it. Honestly, I'm probably gonna try to get out to Great America this year. You know, just in case. You never know. Six Flags with what they're doing, but yeah, that will be tragic. Um, let's see. Okay, I think last two questions here. What was our favorite video we ever created and why?
Oh my gosh. All of my videos are kind of similar. Like I do the vlogs and the countdowns. I don't really branch out that much. I probably should. But I did make one. This is forever ago. I don't even know if it's still public on my channel, but it was like when I hit one, no, I don't know if it was 1,000 subs or what it was. But it was like a video where I showed some clips from like every vlog I'd ever done up to that point, and it was just like a super nostalgic roller coaster ride, literally. And so I kind of want to bring that back. Like I thought about that. Maybe when I hit 50K, I do like a montage kind of like that. I think that'd be kind of cool. So that might be my answer, but I don't know. I love all my videos equally.
Obviously with my channel, mostly have been doing streams for a while. That being said, some of the some of the like videos I was making kind of before I kind of slowed that down, I think came out pretty nicely. I did like a Super Nintendo World overview that kind of went over all this stuff. I think that was that came out quite good. And then the one like video I made like highlighting Steel Dolphin, which was supposed to be part of a series, but that took so long to make that I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing this. But at least in terms of how that video came out, I am still very happy with that one. So I think those would be videos. As far as streams go, I don't think I could pick one, honestly.
Yeah. They're all samey but different, you know?
Yeah, it's...
Is if this question were what's my favorite video series I've done, because you know all my trips are like vlog series. I don't know if I have a favorite off the top of my head, but I will just say it, my New England trip, that vlog series was very underrated. It actually got a lot of views. Very grateful for that. But New England parks are not talked about much, but they are so cool, and you should check those out.
Yeah, I'd love to do like a whole kind of region trip over there, because I mean obviously a lot of people, they're like, okay, you go for Six Flags New England, yeah, Lake Compounds and like Quasi's nearby, and like some of them that's literally it, and it's like,
no, but I'm talking,
there's so
upper New England, like when you get past Six Flags New England.
Mm-hmm.
so many gems, ranging from Canopy, which is so charming. Santa's Village, probably one of the best parks I've ever been to.
Yeah, I've heard you rave about that one, so I'm like, all right, I'll definitely put it on the like.
End is a fantastic kids park. Funtown has great rides, like one of the best dark rides I've ever been on. And like there's so many like gem coasters, right? Like Rorosaurus, Excalibur. So yeah, I think that series is really fun. Also, the first Europe trip, 2022, was amazing. It was the turning point for my channel, so I'll always remember that.
Yeah, no, I was more trying to mention that like those are the parks that like people think of the New England area, but like they don't
Yeah.
explore the other
Mhm.
places that you mentioned.
But if anything,
Um,
use it as an excuse to go up there because I think once you're at Six Flags New England, then the driving is so short to these other New England parks
mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah, I've mapped it out, and I'm like, this is actually a very doable trip at some
Yeah,
point in the future.
you
So,
can do a loop like what we did, where you hit Great Escape on the way back to New England, right? Or
yep,
even add in LaRon. That's what we did because it's not that far out of the way, and that was an experience. So like, lots you could do in New England.
yeah, no. Actually, someone brought up the industry interviews. I don't know how I forgot about that. Yeah, that was sick. When I was able to do those, I did one with um, one of the family members who owns Adventureland Long Island. Tyler Mullins who's a design engineer for Skyline Attractions, so he's designed some of the GCI layouts.
Yeah,
He was involved with Mystic Timbers, amongst several others. Um, and then I had one of the CEO of Far Hope Summerland as well. That series was so difficult though, just because scheduling was like a nightmare.
yeah,
I mean, if like in terms of the like doing guest streams, this is also sometimes tricky, but that specifically because I was doing with industry professionals, that was really hard. Um, if, so there is that, but if the opportunity presents itself, doing like one of those occasionally would be cool. But yeah, that it's just a very hard thing to do consistently.
yeah. I get that.
All right, last question. Um, we've both been to Texas. Our number ones are going to be very different because I've only been to the Dallas area for like less than 24 hours, and Mark, you've been kind of all around. What's
Yeah,
your best ride in Texas?
man. I was in Texas like a few weeks ago. I was at Big Bend National Park. But talking about parks, favorite ride in Texas, I would still give to Iron Rattler, but I would say Boardwalk Bullet is a close second. It's very underrated.
For me personally, I mean, I've only done over Texas, and even then, I kind of had a limited selection of rides, but I hit most of the major coasters. It was a shame that Pirates of Spelunker Cave, I think is what it's called, that was unfortunately closed.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, I really was looking forward. I think it was still recovering from the flood.
Mm,
Um, but I would Mr. Freeze ended up being my favorite coaster at over Texas
it's
actually
absolutely the best I've
pretty
had.
easily.
Yeah.
So that would be my favorite. I do think if I rode more stuff, it'd probably be between Iron Rattler and Boardwalk Bullet. Maybe. I mean, I have Railblazer ranked pretty high in my overall ranking, so theoretically Wonder Woman could be right up there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that those would be some potential options there. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for this stream. Mark, if you have any final thoughts, I mean, go ahead.
Well, I will just say, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's been an honor. Second thing, since y'all are tuning in here, announcement that none of my viewers are familiar with Japan and Korea this summer.
Oh wow, wait.
I've been dropping kind of like teasers about this, like on all of my different platforms. Some people know, like it's kind of obvious to some people, but I haven't made the official announcement yet. And so this is your first time finding out. I'm sure it's a lot of people in chat's first time finding out. Japan and Korea this summer. Stay tuned. It's going to be a big year for the channel.
I think you've kind of subtly hit, or maybe not so subtly. I think you've hinted at it here and
Yeah,
there
like
on Dashcast
yeah,
and some of your other things. But that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to watching your content. And hey, if you haven't checked out CoasterDash, you want to see some content about the parks of Japan and South Korea, well, that was the perfect opportunity. So absolutely wish you the best of luck with that trip. That should be awesome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for having me on.
Alrighty. And with that being said, of course, thank you to Mark. Thank you so much for coming on. And then for all of you watching, also thank you for watching as well. And last kind of note as far as my end goes, as far as channel stuff, I'm hoping to have another stream, probably not a guest stream, but just like a stream in the next few weeks. Uh, might actually be kind of have a theme actually. So I'm toying out testing out some new things with the streams, but expect one to come out in the next few weeks, and that should be the plan. So there we go. Alrighty, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time here on Coaster Hour. See you all.